Good afternoon. It is Monday, June 7th. We are here for a board workshop. Our other board members, I'm sure, will be joining us shortly. Today we have, let's see, pulled, okay, the board auditor evaluation was pulled prior to the workshop. So we will have Vision 2030 Objective 3, increase college and career readiness, and we will be prioritizing the workshop topics. So we will go ahead and begin today with our beautiful people down here. And if you will all just introduce yourself, and we can start. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to remind you that throughout the year, you've been receiving updates on our strategic plan. This is around Objective 3. This was originally scheduled for February, but you know, our schedules have been a little mixed up this year, and so we've been working on some things that we wanted to get some things in place before we brought this to you. And this team has been really working nonstop over the past few months to talk about where are we going with our college and career readiness, and they're ready to present to you today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rita Davis.
Good afternoon. For today's agenda, we are going to cover grades 5 through 12, career and technical education. So just give you an update on how our work and progress affects Envision 2030. And then I will turn it over to my colleagues for an update on the technical colleges. Okay, the first slide we're looking at talks about increasing the number of enrollment in career-themed courses. And of course, this number has gone down this year, and it was related to COVID. We had students that weren't able to access all CTE courses. And we expected this number to go down, and we did very well considering the situation. What we wanted to focus on in this particular slide's update is our WIN, which is a middle grade CTE plan to benefit all students. So Ms. McClung's going to pull that up for us in the background while I go over this with you. We're very excited about this plan. It will start in the upcoming school year. As you know, we've been working on a CTE continuum from grades 5 through 12, and then if a child decides to go post-secondary or straight into the workforce. So we want them to have as much career exposure and interest and skills acquisition as possible when they are with us from elementary up through grade 12. So we came up with this middle school CTE plan to really get students excited about career and technical education and help guide their decisions for choosing a career academy in high school. These particular courses contain something called digital tool certificates, and we believe that enrollment in our career-themed courses will increase next school year because we're offering more developmental and age-appropriate certifications for our students. They'll range everywhere from digital design to coding. We also have one that looks into health occupations. So we've been individually meeting with middle schools since January and presenting this information and of course getting feedback. And it's been met with great delight because a school can choose a mock academy, as you see them up there in the kind of pathways. And it's not regimented that a child has to take it in sequence. So if a student comes in from another school, another district, another state, they can jump into these pathways. The goal is for them to gain confidence, to gain some junior certifications, and to help guide their decision for career academies in high school. And now we can move on to the next slide. Objective 3, Goal 3 is increase the percentage of students graduating with at least one industry certification. Industry certification was greatly impacted in 2019-20 because our testing season would have begun during lockdown. So we had a tremendous challenge to get students industry certified tested, which you know requires a lot of security, proctoring, etc. We were able to do some remote sessions, but in the end, we dropped by 30% in industry cert acquisition that year. We will also see a drop this year. So with that in mind, my team and I started to look at what can we control. If industry certs are going to drop just because students are unable to test, what can we impact? And that's where we really started connecting students with the workforce and getting them job-ready skills until they were able to take the industry certs. And I would like to show you this brief video that Wink News did about a program we were able to start this year with the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center called Train to Gain.
Training the next generation of construction workers. A program here helps high school seniors head into construction jobs instead of college. Witness reporter Brianna Ross shows us how the program prepares them for success.
Suiting up, getting ready.
Everybody believes that college is always the way, and there's some programs like this that are awesome.
8 Dunbar High School students plan to work after graduation. Thanks to the Train to Gain program, they're getting first-hand experience in construction, roofing, plumbing, and more. On this day, they inspected a city-owned house, picked out everything that needs to be fixed.
We figure that if someone don't make the move to help these students, it's very hard for them to transition from high school.
It is super important for students to actually get out onto a work site to see what it's actually like to be in a career field.
It's a win for students and local businesses who need workers bad.
As construction continues to boom and accelerate, the lack of workers is really a problem. This is an option for them to immediately have a job in the summer, check out the construction industry, learn what type of money can be made in the construction industry and what type of career and future they could have.
Creating opportunity and helping to build dreams.
Now I'm thinking like open my own business, my company. I feel like it's something that I can enhance for my career in the future.
Now, aside from this hands-on experience, students also get to practice their skills in a lab at the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center. Now, these are some pictures of that lab. The group meets twice a week. Now, Train to Gain is a partnership between the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center, Lee County Schools, and Skanka. It's working with 8 local companies with the hope to hire the students in June.
And I have an update. 4 of the 7 students have been hired full-time already, and 3 of the 7, the remaining 3, are working with a company who is helping them to gain full-time employment as well. So we wanted to highlight that because I know a drop in industry certs can make you nervous and concerned, but I wanted you to know that we used COVID to our benefit to really implement some programs that probably would have taken us a lot longer. So we implemented them rapidly, and we know they will expand. And then the final slide I'd like to go over with you is, we've had a long-standing goal to have every child who graduate with at least 1 industry certification. That's a huge goal, and every year we try to increase the target. Last year, the target, I believe, was 50%, and we had 45% of our seniors graduate. And again, a lot of them weren't able to test due to going into lockdown, into quarantine. So this year, we are at 35%. And again, that is related to COVID. So I just wanted to finish that up. On to this slide. Thank you, Cindy. Sorry about that. We want to talk about business partnerships. This was another key goal for the district this year. And we ended with 185 business partners. That's mostly due in part to a system or a district-wide implementation of career advisory boards. So we have 1 at each of our high schools. And we also created a district-level career advisory board, and we asked each high school to send a representative, and then we meet a couple times a year to go over what are you hearing back at your high school's career advisory board that we need to help you with. So that says a lot about the effort that's been put into really connecting our students to the workforce. And speaking of the workforce, we have a video from our first ever workforce signing day, and 5 of our 7 board members were there, and we greatly appreciate your support, and we'd like to share that with you now.
Welcome to the first annual Workforce Signing Day. We are very excited for the students. Choosing to enter the workforce upon high school graduation is oftentimes forgotten in the customary recognition ceremonies. As a business owner and community member, I know how critical and strong a knowledgeable workforce is to the well-being of our county.
What you're deciding to do is exactly what we did. My brother Douglas and I, we have the utmost respect for you, and we want to wish you nothing but success. So congratulations.
We've got several distinguished guests in attendance tonight. They're here to join you in your celebration as they too know the impact that you're going to make on the local workforce.
Every kid has a pathway for success, whether it's college, trade school, the military, or small business entrepreneurship going into the workforce. So thank you all for making this happen.
This is something that we have to do all the time. Let's help our young people to make the transition.
Recognizing students who choose to enter the workforce upon graduation was a major goal. My career and technical education team could not be more grateful for the time and effort Bill has put into Workforce Signing Day.
Students, we're going to wish you the best in your life ahead. I know you're going to be successful. You've come through a great school system. The Lee County School District, you ought to be very proud of what you're producing. These students are going to do very well in life. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here, and see you next year. Bye now.
Production team put that together and is allowing us to use it as a marketing tool. So again, it shows our community partnerships, our business partnerships expanded greatly this year, and for that we are grateful. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Todd Everly.
Thanks, Rita. As we transition from the CTE programs to the Lee Technical College portion of the presentation, I just wanted to emphasize that we met with our business partners like Mr. Gary Griffith with BMI, Director John Tomich of Lee County Economic Development, and our own individual advisory committees that are set on each of our campuses. They support what we're going to be presenting to you in our vision on expansion and those opportunities. We also had the opportunity to hear from them on the importance of the Alico corridor. We know that that is forthcoming. That will be the hub of Southwest Florida dealing with industry, and they fully support if we are going to expand any opportunities with a new campus, an annex, or an expansion, to seriously consider that area, and that would have been their view on that. As we move to the first slide there, we just wanted to briefly talk to you about the challenges and successes that we met during COVID. Just quickly, back in April the 1st of 2020, both Fort Myers Technical College and Cape Coral moved virtually instruction. We're limited clock hours, so we had some financial aid barriers that we had to meet during there. Public Service Academy had to be completely shut down at that time because the majority of ours is hand-to-hand training that the governor's office would not allow at that time. Then in May and June, we started the reopening committees for all the campuses. Then in May, public service academies throughout the state were allowed to move back open, and that was due to all of our first responders in the state started to feel the impacts of the COVID. We needed to get our recruits that are out throughout the state out into the workforce. Then in July, both Fort Myers Technical College and Cape Coral Technical College students went back face-to-face with the protocols that we set. Just have two more emphases I would like to just pass on to you. Our enrollment stayed strong throughout that, and it is stronger now than it's been in a while. So our workforce, people wanting to get into the workforce, is growing for our campuses. Also, any of the lost revenue that we had during that time frame, we recouped with the federal grant dollars that were assigned to us. So we really did not lose out that much as it affected the technical colleges. Now I'd just like to turn over, as the presentation will flow, I'd like to turn over to Director Charlie Peace from Cape Coral Technical College. That'll be followed by Director John Rozelle from Fort Myers Technical College, and then I'll come back and hit up the Public Service Academy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Good afternoon, everyone. Charlie Pease, Director of Cape Coral Technical College. I want to say thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to present on our vision for the future for the technical colleges, and for me specifically for Cape Coral Technical College. So I want to start with a little bit about our past, our present, and then we'll get into the future here. Just a quick slide up on the screen. The land at Cape Coral Technical College is about 14 acres. It was donated by a philanthropist for the express purpose of a technical and vocational school back in the early 90s. Our programs have evolved to meet regional demand in those 25 years or so, and you can see from the picture up on the screen that we actually right now only utilize probably about 50 or 60% of our land. So being able to expand on land that we already own is a huge opportunity. So I'll talk a little bit about that as we go here. So our present. This is something I like to talk about all the time, anytime I get a chance to get in front of the community. Most people don't realize that Cape Coral Technical College is the only college in the city of Cape Coral. We're approaching 200,000 students. Obviously, there's no FSW or FGCU, but there are also no technical or trade schools in Cape Coral. So we don't have Sun State for cosmetology and barbering that you see in Fort Myers. We don't have Rasmussen. We don't have Hodges, any of those nursing programs. We are literally the only college in the city of Cape Coral. So there's huge opportunity to make us a proper college, if you will. So the current programs that we have 16 programs. I always like to say that our programs are more of the white-collar nature. So we don't have the traditional skilled trades at Cape Coral Technical College. Our programs focus on the areas of healthcare, technology, hospitality, business, and animal care in the area of veterinary assisting. This slide here is just a quick data snapshot of where our students are coming from. If you live in Fort Myers, you probably don't make it over to Cape Coral often, and that's sort of what we see with our demographic at Cape Coral Technical College. About 3/4 of our students actually come directly to us from Cape Coral or North Fort Myers, the West Zone. The other students do come from the South Zone, the East Zone, and of course other counties actually, but those are usually for very specific programs. Things like dental assisting, we're the only ones that offer that. Things like veterinary assisting, we're the only one of the technical colleges here that offers that. And also our practical nursing program, which is highly ranked and one of the top programs in the state and the nation. So as we move to the next slide, sticking with our current, I want to briefly introduce before we play this video. I came to Cape Coral Technical College in November of 2019. It's been a year and a half already, believe it or not, with COVID. And one of my main missions was to get us on the map with branding and marketing. And of course, COVID put a little bit of a delay on that. But one of the first things we did is we partnered with Future Makers to help us fund this incredible video. Bill Rogers Communications put this together, and our team was involved in every single detail down to the storyboarding and the different shots in this video. So without further ado, I'd like to share a short 2-minute video about what we do at Cape Coral Technical College.
What does your future look like? Discover your future at Cape Coral Technical College.
You're guaranteed to get the hands-on learning that you need in this program. The teachers are amazing. They really help you understand and prepare you for what you need when you're leaving to start your career.
I chose the LPN program. It was just a no-brainer for me. They're ranked number 2 in the state of Florida, so for me, it was just exactly what I was looking for.
I believe the hands-on is definitely one of the biggest things, because it's not like a boring old school. You get to go out there and you get to touch things and you get to really learn about your specific field.
Once you have one of these skills that we offer at this college, you can put that in your back pocket. You can take that anywhere with you. Nobody's ever going to be able to take those skills away from you.
We are a very good team, and we love the fact that we are very professional and we embrace each other to be better and have a very good environment.
We are Lee County. We offer career and year opportunities in the areas of technology, healthcare, business, hospitality, and agriculture. Our students leave with virtually no debt on average, and it really is a chance for you to do what you love. So that's a little bit about what we currently do. That video actually was finalized literally 1 week before we closed down temporarily for the pandemic. So we spent about 3 weeks working on that from storyboarding throughout. So again, I want to give a shout out to our team and thank you to Future Makers for helping us fund a video that would have been much more expensive had we not had them as a partner. So also, I want to give a quick plug. You can find that video at capecoraltech.edu or on any of our social media sites. We like to spread it out in the community whenever we can, and that's one of my goals as I get a chance to present at places like this. So what you did not see in the video was blue-collar, traditional blue-collar skilled trades programs. Again, Cape Coral is the only college in Cape Coral, and we don't have any of those. I remember when I sat down with Dr. Adkins initially before I started here, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to bring those programs to Cape Coral Tech. We have had a chance over the last several months to engage with the operations division, with the academic services division, and along with the technical college leadership and other stakeholders, as Todd mentioned, to talk about what the master plan might be for Cape Coral Technical College and that land that you just saw. First thing that we would like to do, so it's a two-phase master plan is what we envision at this point. The first phase would consist of an auto service technology academy and a marine service technology academy, and I'll share a picture here in a moment that shows the overlay so you get an idea of where that would be. We hope with your approval, if we can move forward here in the next few months, that we may be able to even break ground as early as next summer on that. It takes a year to build out. So hopefully within 3 years we can have those two programs launched. That would be a quick win. The second phase, the middle box that you see there, is 4 to 6 years out. So phase 2 would be an additional approximately 20,000 square foot building that would sit on our current property. And it would house approximately 8 new programs, things such as welding, HVAC, construction design, and other health science expansion-related programs, depending on what we need at that specific time once we make those decisions. The building, of course, will be flexible space, so we don't have to make any specific decisions on what those classrooms and those labs actually will be immediately. The last thing there is something that's kind of become near and dear to my heart with some of the legislation that almost passed this year in committee. I envision, as I mentioned, Cape Coral Technical College becoming a proper college eventually at some point where we can offer follow-on programs to programs such as licensed practical nursing. If you've been part of the healthcare industry, they call it a bridge program, is what you typically hear them describe it as in the healthcare world. We currently don't have that, but there has been some legislation that has died in committee the last couple of years. This year it had a lot of steam, and we were pushing very hard to be able to offer across the 47 technical colleges in Florida a bridge program that would allow us to offer an associate's degree in nursing. My hope is that one day we'll be able to do that, and that could be part of that new building. So now I want to show you very quickly what phase 1 and phase 2 look like. So before we actually do the overlay here, just to orient you with what you are looking at, you can see the land again that we have there, but over on the right-hand side of the screen, so from the bottom to the top, that would be north to south. Santa Barbara Boulevard, if you're familiar with the main artery that runs out in front of our school, Santa Barbara Boulevard would be running in the white space from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen, north to south. You pull into our parking lot, and the gray area that you see at the bottom middle area on the right-hand side, that's our single point of entry in our diamond-shaped building. Up at the top there, so those concrete pads that you see, those are actually a basketball court and a prior bus loop from some of the schools that were staged at our school, including Island Coast High School, Challenger, and then ALC West was ultimately there before it left in 2017. So the first thing we want to do is show you on the north side of the building where phase 1 and phase 2 would be. We of course, phase 1. We of course have not engaged with architects at this point or engineers or anyone. This is a vision. And you can see there that we would have an auto service academy on the north side of the building, front facing, so it's visible from the street because we want to service the public. This is really important to us to be able to get that recognition from the public of who we are and what we do, and we think it will translate to our other programs as well. The second phase here that you'll see is phase 2, which would be that additional 22,000 square foot approximate size building. And you can see some of the concrete slab for outdoor work areas. Again, this would be flexible space with classrooms and lab area that we would want to hopefully break ground in 4 to 5 years from now. So to give you a little bit of an illustration here before we play the video, I'm going to talk through this video. It's a very short video. It doesn't have any audio. But I want to give a huge shout out to our digital design instructor, Todd Calfee, for the 2D rendering here. I also want to give a shout out to his students who did some of the video footage. And also my associate director, Gina Saveston, who has a background in CTE. She was a TV production teacher, so she helped with some of the things that you'll see here. The video will go slow, but I'll talk through it so you can kind of see what we're talking about with what the auto program vision would be. So there's our single point of entry as you approach the building, and over there on the right-hand side, you're going to see it zoom in here in a moment. That's the north side of the building. That concrete retaining wall there used to be the entrance to where ALC West was, and you're going to see here in a second our 2D rendering of what we would like to have there. Again, this is not an architectural design, this is something done by our digital design students. Our goal is to have a program, again, that has a customer service area, as well as something that's more modern, like what you might see in at the car dealership. So instead of having 5 or 6 bays, you have the single point of entry, the single roll down there, and you're going to see a cool zoom in here of what it might look like on the inside. So over the last several months, we've had the opportunity to tour different schools and see their auto programs. This is actually the inside of a Mockley Technical College. This is 5 bays and 1 lift station, which we believe would be perfect, approximately 6,000 square feet for what we're trying to accomplish with the size and scope at Cape Coral Tech. As the video comes around, you'll see some classroom space there straight ahead, and then you're going to see, as it zooms in over here, the customer service area. Again, really, really important for us that we service the public, that it's front-facing, that they're able to come in, and we're able to make a profit, quite frankly. We project we can make $30,000 to $50,000 net profit annually from doing this. And also, it's going to give us that exposure in the community. And lastly, and probably most importantly, our students get the actual hands-on experience of working with the community in the job that they're going to do. So that is just a quick overview of our vision for Cape Coral Technical College. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. John Roselle, the director of Fort Myers Technical College.
Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Atkins. I'm briefly going to take us kind of in the same format that Mr. Pease did with Fort Myers. As you know, we are currently in a renovation, so I'll give you a little update of where we are in that process as well. Fort Myers Technical College opened in 1967. It's been a pillar in the community for over 50 years. It originally opened on 30 acres of land with 4 buildings and 7 programs. The last renovation was done in 2001, roughly completed around 2004, I believe. The renovation at that time reflect what industry needs and workforce shift demands. Okay, so where are we at today? Today, the college has expanded to 24 programs in 5 focus areas. Those 5 focus areas are healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, construction, hospitality, and human services. All 5 of those focus areas still remain in high demand today and high need in our community. We are happy to report in the fall that every one of those focus areas will have at least 90% enrollment. So we will be continue to turn out students in those focus areas at a 90% enrollment in the fall with anticipated wait lists in some of them. So where do our students come from? Like you saw with Mr. Pease and Cape Coral Tech, you saw a big percentage of the students coming from Cape Coral. Well, our students are coming from all 4 areas of Lee County, all corners. You will notice that the trend there is in the east zone with the highest percentage, closely followed by the south zone, and then you see the west zone. I want to draw your attention to the west zone, which is the navy blue bar there. Those students are coming to us primarily for the skilled trades professions, if not all of them, because we do have the healthcare programs here at Fort Myers. So they're coming across the river to get into those skilled trade programs, kind of backing up what Mr. P says about AST and marine mechanics. So what's our vision and where we expect to be in the next few years? In 1 to 3 years, we expect to expand 6 current programs. This is kind of the focus of our remodel. Those 6 programs would be major appliance, electricity, plumbing, welding, auto services, and turbine. They're kind of a focus around our remodel to help increase capacity and need in those areas. We would also be looking to add a diesel mechanics program for this remodel as well. In 4 to 6 years, we want to add additional skill programs, programs such as solar, drafting, aircraft maintenance, things of that nature, while we continue to upgrade the campus machines to industry standards. And then 7 to 10 years out, again, piggybacking on what Cape Coral is doing, we believe the associate's degree is a great possibility. We would look at it, nursing and drafting as some of the examples. I feel, though, as though if we can get that through and the state can push that through, we could offer that at a much lower rate than most community colleges, thus breaking down the socioeconomic barrier that are preventing some students from attaining an associate's degree. So that's exciting stuff, but it's going to take a cooperation amongst all the technical colleges to push that through. So this is just briefly telling you where we are at in the timeline of the remodel. We are presently in the contract and design phase. We hope to complete that phase by February 2022. Then we will move into the construction phase, and that'll take 12 to 18 months, and an estimated completion by June of 2023. So if you want to look over to the left, we are just finished up the programming phase, and we're getting ready to head into schematic design, which I actually have a meeting on that for Thursday. That's going to be a neat meeting and a neat time because we'll be able to get 3D renderings of what our labs and our classrooms look like to make adjustments and changes that we talked about during the programming phase. We'll be able to really get inside these rooms a little bit better so we can, manipulate the space for safety, for academic environment, those kinds of things. And then as you move down, the next major part will be the design and development, kind of in the middle there. That's when everything will be finalized about what the building and the campus is going to look like. So that'll be the go time for construction. Of course, there'll be some permitting and bidding things that will take place, and hopefully we can break ground if we can move the timeline up as early as December, but right now it's projected between December and February. So what does this remodel look like? And how are we going to pull it off? So phase one, we are fortunate, if you see on the lower left there, to have an L building, what we call L building. It's sitting vacant it's the old Public Service Academy, and it's sitting vacant. So we're going to remodel that area and move major appliance, electricity and plumbing into that area. And then we will be able to go to the area that those programs were in and remodel it for welding and thus so on and so forth. This way, we will not have any impact on any program will not have to be shut down, no impact on the academic day, anything like that. We can keep the construction going throughout the whole process without moving students to portables or moving programs to various areas, so we can still offer, the best benefits and the best education that we can during this remodel for all of the students. And what do we hope to expect to get out of this renovation? The renovation is aimed again towards increasing capacity and adding the diesel program here in the short run. We plan on increasing capacity and revenues by approximately 20%, which we can in turn invest back into the school, hopefully to add additional programs, while we update the campus equipment and to meet industry standards and local workforce needs. Mr. Everly opened up talking about the business partners and the community leaders that we've been working with, and one of the examples that came out of those local workforce needs was the need for commercial HVAC students. So we quickly got to work. We were, just before COVID hit, we were fortunate to acquire a cold water chiller from Chico's. So I talked to the HVAC instructors, let's start getting that commercial piece in place, and so we can start turning out more students with a background and knowledge of commercial HVAC. They also did stress, and I want to back up Mr. Ederle on this too, that the LECO corridor is going to be the main hub of business. That's where they anticipate an explosion in growth. We look forward to many future conversations with them because we're going to have to obviously keep up with that demand and help meet the workforce needs as those jobs come on board and our area continues to grow. So that's kind of where we're at right now with FMTC. I will turn it back over to Mr. Everly for the Public Service Academy.
Thank you. So let's talk about the past and how did the academy get to the school district. 1979, the Lee County Sheriff's Office relinquished the certificate to the Lee County School District, and they were attached to the High-Tech Central, which now is Fort Myers Technical College. It was 2 modular buildings and 1 fixed building, and we did 2 programs, basic corrections, basic law enforcement. I had the privilege to attend both of those in 1983 in corrections, in 1984 and as law enforcement. Then I got hired with the Cape Coral Police Department. As John mentioned, in 2001, during the renovation, L building was built. We outgrew those 2 modular buildings and the fixed building, and the academy moved over there. At that time, the city of Fort Myers had the fire academy. They no longer were able to sustain that. The school district picked up that license, and the fire academy also moved into the L building. 10 years later, pretty much outgrew that building. In 2011, The academy moved to Michigan Montessori, Michigan Elementary School, where we currently are at right now. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's talk about, give you a little bit of information, because I don't think a lot of people understand what we have here as an academy and how we're recognized throughout the state. Currently, there are 41 law enforcement certified academies in the state of Florida. We are the only certified academy in Southwest Florida, covering Lee, Charlotte, Henry Glades, and Collier County. We're also the 5th largest now in the state of Florida. We're also the only full-time fire and EMT that are open Monday through Friday all year round, no breaks, all summer, only the major Christmas breaks, the only time that we are off. And we are also the only academy under one leadership where you're putting all of those disciplines together in the state of Florida. No one else has anything like we do. I talk to our business partners all the time. I'm obviously very involved with them. And it was a simple question and a simple answer they gave us. As long as growth continues in Southwest Florida, we will have to produce public safety throughout Southwest Florida. So as long as the community and we're growing as we are, we're going to have to produce these first responders for our communities. The next slide, just kind of give you a little snapshot. So for the FY21 year that we're in, we licensed and graduated 382 first responders for Southwest Florida. That's what we produced just this year. Also, we are required to hold advanced and specialized classes for our law enforcement and correction officers through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. We held 50 classes. That's for their continuing education, mandatory de-escalation training, which was a new requirement this year. We had 1,100 officers come through our doors this 12-month period to show you what kind of activity we are doing there. The next slide, so you can see, as I mentioned, we have 5 counties we serve. You can see Collier County is a big partner for us. But if you look at the zones within the school district, the east zone is where the majority of our students are coming to by percentage, is where they're living and coming from, to show where people are moving to that are becoming first responders, at least within Lee County. And then the vision is kind of simple for me. It's increase our program capacity. We need to be able to keep up with what we have. We need to add a driving course. Right now, every law enforcement agency uses the Buckingham Airfield. We've taken over one airstrip over there. That could go away at any time. We're really counting on outside entities to make sure we deliver the required training that we have to do. So we need to build our own blacktop driving track that would not only help us, but be used for other programs too in the technical colleges and with the school district. And we need to add a gun range, and that is an indoor gun range. Right now we use, and we have the luxury of using the Lee County Sheriff's Office's gun range. Almost every agency does that. Without them and that partnership that we have currently with them, we would have really, our backup is going to Clewiston. Clewiston is the other gun range that we use, and that's an outdoor gun range. It puts a lot of burden on us, A, traveling, but B, in the summertime, in the heat and the rains, it will stall the 770-hour requirements for the Law Enforcement Academy. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy, if I can, and she can talk about meeting these needs on the operational. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As part of the capital plan and budgeting process, we've been working with the tech team to understand what their needs are for today and for the future, and identify how within the 5 and 10-year plans that we can help them achieve their goals. So in progress, as we've already discussed, is the FMTC renovation that is budgeted and is underway. We are also working with them to get the CCTC underway as quickly as we can, at least for the first phase of the auto and marine tech programs. Our future considerations are the East Zone Annex, which we've talked about. We've identified some property in the East Zone that can be used for multiple resources, including this program, but what exactly we're going to use on the property that we're currently in our due diligence for, we haven't determined. It could be this, it also could be a high school, it could be a middle school, It could be a combination. It's a large site, so it's large enough that we could put more than one educational facility at that site. And then identify where and how to relocate and expand the PSA offerings as they've outgrown the existing Michigan Avenue site. All of this knowing and understanding that we need to do it with partnerships and with grants, recognizing that in order for us to really be able to provide the services that the tech needs, that it's not going to be something that we're going to be able to do by ourselves, because these projects are going to compete, are also being looked at with the same resources that we take care of our K-12 programming. So through the capital budgeting and planning process, which you will hear more about from our Boards and Services team, which is also part of this project team, which they will be meeting, or they will be presenting to you some concepts at the upcoming, your next upcoming briefing and workshop, and scheduled for June 21st and 22nd. You'll learn about different options that we have, different alternatives we have for meeting all of the needs of the capital demands that we have at both the K-12 and at the tech college level. So clearly, the better we can provide grants and partnerships, the easier it is for us to help provide the services that the tech colleges need as quickly as we possibly can. So at that, if there's any questions.
Thank you. We'll open it up to questions on any of those areas.
Okay, I'm going to go with Kathleen, then Ms. Vaughn, and then Ms. Kings, and then Ms. Fisher.
Well, comment, love the win for the middle school course offerings. I think that's fabulous. I guess my questions are, what is taking so long with the Fort Myers with the expansion of the Fort Myers Technical College out to Lehigh? The property, is that the issue? I'm concerned. I feel like we've been talking about it for 18 months at the very least. We've been looking for the property that long. So I guess my first question is, why aren't we further along with that? And then my second question is, as we look forward to partnerships and grants, particularly with respect to the expansion of the technical college and the possibility of P3 investments in our colleges, who in the district is sort of leading those conversations with either the Horizon Council or the Office of Economic Development? Where are we on that?
So I can answer, at least help answer the first question in terms of timing. It's, as I mentioned, that at your next, I believe it's the next briefing, although it could be the workshop, but I'm pretty sure it's the briefing that's scheduled for the 22nd. The Business Services Division will be bringing to you some different alternatives about how the capital planning works. And to be just plain, we have more demand than we have resources, and there's some major decisions that we're going to have to make. So it's about understanding where our priorities are and understanding how we fit our priorities together, meeting the demands of our K-12 as well as meeting the demands of technical college. That's why the partnerships and the grants are so important on this area, so that we can expand those resources.
So then my question becomes, who's responsible for that? If that's a key piece of this puzzle, who's leading that particular effort? Or who are you working with? Or is there a group that's working at the county level that is a combination of public education, economic development, sort of looking at, for the county, a 5-year economic growth?
Actually started that, Board Member Morgan, the last couple of weeks when we met as a group with John Tomlich and a couple others, Gary Griffith, as I mentioned. Also, that if we're talking about the Horizon Council, we're actually going to be presenting, Rita, I, and everyone that's sitting up here, going to be doing a presentation. We're going to be on a panel on, I think it's June 24th. I have to see the exact date. It's one of their next meetings that they have coming up. You're saying leading the charge, and you're right there. I think once we get the direction of what we're going to be able to offer, you would see the three of us, Rita, we all work together on this, and I'm sure within the district too, is going out and leading, I want to use Dr. Atkins' word, but having a champion, someone champion this. It's tough right now to sell something that we don't know what that plan is.
Right.
And once we know that, hey, we are going to, it's tough for me to go to Kia in Cape Coral, using that as an example, if we're looking, or something in East Fort Myers or whatever, and say, where are you going to go? Don't know. Where are we? And so on. Once we know what that plan, the board approved, I think we can really move forward with those partnerships.
So I think, just to be candid, because I will give you a little bit of my personal frustration with this. This is why I asked for it to be part of the Big Five, because I didn't see the sense of urgency around this particular goal. But I even think even the Big Five and it being a part of that still didn't translate to the capital committee plan. And I think that what would be helpful is this type of a workshop where you're giving a very clear direction to staff, because I felt that was, but it ultimately didn't translate the way that I felt it should. So I know when Dr. Spiro and I went out to like Fort Myers Technical College, for example, we really felt that set a priority, but it just, you know, it hasn't gone as far down the line as it really should, because you really need to have a true champion. And even these meetings that Cindy helps chair, I mean, she is charged with the task of really trying to move this thing forward, and those meetings have been very, very difficult because of this a little bit of competing interest when it comes to these technical colleges and the public service academy. So that's just a blunt, candid answer. And I want you to understand, as a governance team, I think the governance team can set this as a clear priority, or it's not going to get done with the speed that it needs to get done. You're going to have somebody that literally does take it. That's one of the things that I talked to them about, and Todd specifically is the person in charge of the academy. Just you know, we need as a district to have a champion to go out and do this. The other thing when it comes to working with these other groups, I've certainly have mentioned it to the foundation many times, to the executive director or the executive Horizon Council board and the Horizon Council in general. That's a pretty packed agenda, though. I mean, so I think that we need to get a concept in place and really take, because they're willing to help us, but if we can get a concept together that we can literally get out there and sell, like the half-penny sales tax, that's what you need to do. And that's what I've asked Cindy to do in these meetings, that we all work together to try to build that cohesive vision so that we can get out there and do that very thing. Because if you don't, it's not going to happen. So, and this is a huge need. I've been doing this for almost, the reason I did the Big Five is just an utter frustration over what I really saw in this community is a need to expand career and technical education in our community. There's a huge demand out there. We're simply not able to meet it with our current capacity. I think this leadership team understands that and wants to make that happen. But moving forward, as you transition, you need to identify that champion, and I think you can be successful. It is literally, as I see it, very much like a half-penny sales tax type of initiative or project.
And one last question. Do you see anybody in the community who is on the business side, a potential champion?
Yes. I think if we can show them, give them some visual things. Here is concrete. We are looking at this property. These are the programs that we are looking to expand in to meet the growth of our community. I think we will find partners in that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions. The first one is I absolutely support the expansion of the career and technical training. I agree, and I think everybody here does, that it's really important. The thing that I worry about, though, is given the statewide and probably even nationwide emphasis, but especially in Florida, on this kind of education, the career education, and the current job market. It's all well and good to do these expansions, but what do you see going forward in terms of staffing these new facilities and these expanded programs?
Take a shot. Okay. So, to answer that question, the demand's here for the workforce. We know that. We also, you know, we got to watch, obviously, what Florida's doing when it comes to, you know, unemployment and so on like that. We can fill these positions. They're tough. They're tough. These are tough positions to fill as instructor positions because of what the pay rate is.
And that's what I'm talking about, the instructor.
But we do fill them now, and I don't think that that's going to be a hindrance. You know, we're starting to see a little bit of a trade where people are retiring from their first career and giving back and making it a second career and making them teachers in these special, in defined trades. We also think that dealing with some of our partnerships that we're going to find instructors within that. If we use Sam Galloway Ford as an example, if they would partner with us with their instructors, would they be also willing to partner on the instructional portion of that too? So, you know, not that they're giving up their time,
I appreciate your answer. It doesn't give me much confidence, though, because I know that, for instance, and maybe this is a little different, but I remember when Bonita Springs High School opened, their beautiful HVAC room sat empty because they couldn't, at first, because they couldn't staff it. So I'm really concerned about this issue, and I want to see the expansion, but then again, I don't want to see expansion and beautiful, expensive facilities sit idle for a year while we're trying to get people to staff these things.
I don't know if you can address the adjunct professor model with them, because I certainly believe that is something that I think can help.
So, as you know, a recent board policy was presented or briefed to you regarding adjunct teaching certificate for our district, which is going to be new and excitingly groundbreaking, because the goal is to allow professionals to retain their day job, but also almost be on loan, almost like an adjunct professor would be, and come into our classrooms for a certain amount of time to fill in techniques and instructional methods that maybe the current teacher of record or classroom teacher does not have. So it's a great way to fill in the gaps without asking somebody to leave their full-time professional position. We're excited about that, and we're looking to other districts to help us model that, because this is a statewide issue, and we are aware of that. And we're also looking at a volunteer unit called Cove, where it will be an expert group of folks that come in just as volunteers and help the teacher of record provide very specialized skills to students to help get them to the next point in attaining those workforce skills. So, and then a third thing we're looking at based on research with other districts are stipends that are written into our federal grant applications, and these are for very high need, high skilled positions that are supported by the grant. And then teachers, if we have multiple teachers teaching those areas, they would have to apply, there would be a rubric, and it would be an annual renewal. But that would give them some extra incentive for those particular subject areas.
Okay, thank you, and I'll cross my fingers on that, but everybody in the state is working on this, so if it was hard before, it's going to become double, triply hard. The other thing is, I'm not real clear on how the PSA, how that works. Mr. Everly, you said you went through a program and then you were hired years ago by Cape Coral. Does the sheriff's office, the police departments, do they hire candidates and then they go through this program? Or is it, you know, I'm interested in law enforcement and I want to go through the program and then I'm going to sell myself, or not, well, that's a bad word. I'm going to apply to various police departments around the state. How does that all work? I don't understand.
Prior to 2008, when we had that little bit of a bump in the economy, you had to be hired by an agency to come into any of the academies in the state.
Okay.
Once that happened, the academies with FDLE's guidance gave parameters that you can be what we call an open enroll in students, and you had to meet a minimum standard coming in. When I came to the academy in 2012, I tightened that up a little bit more. What I was seeing is that there were, so to answer your question, you're either hired by an agency. Currently, right now, the Law Enforcement Academy is 770 hours, roughly 5 months by the time you get done licensed and you're out working for that agency. So you cannot work. It's a Monday through Friday. We are running our law enforcement class right now. We are running a junior, senior class all year around, junior, senior class, corrections, fire, and EMT. They answer all of those. But for the law enforcement and corrections, you can put yourself through the class. 98% of our current law enforcement base recruits are hired recruits coming in the door. They get first priority. 100% right now of our corrections are all hired by agencies prior to coming in. They're sponsoring those recruits, paying for them. They usually take a 10% reduction in their salary into their license, go out into the field training program, and then they're solo in their craft. So to answer that is that it is both. Usually city police departments run their budgets in October. We see a big increase in October. And then this last quarter, we were able to get some of those open enroll students, but they got to meet the same requirements as we require those agencies do. What I didn't see when I first came in is that these young men and women were putting themselves through the academy and they wouldn't even get an application because they didn't meet the minimum qualification. They may have had something in their past. They could have had some other issues that an agency would not. So I sat down with all the chiefs and sheriffs and said, give me all of your minimum qualifications. We put a schematic together. And so for them to come in now, it's very lengthy, hard. Our fire's exactly the same way, and so is our EMT. And those are pretty much, all fire are 100% open enroll. It's a point system, and so is EMT that we brought in full-time about 4 years ago. So to answer your question is, yes, in the beginning, you had to be sponsored 100%. 2008 opened up the doors in the state of Florida, and we have a mixture of both.
Okay, so then, and that is just law enforcement, not the other
That's
two
law enforcement
areas.
and corrections, about 98%.
And corrections, okay.
And then fire's 100% open enroll. Very few, we may get one or two. The way the fire departments work, at least in Southwest Florida, they let those men and women go through. There are jobs. It's a little tough right now. You cannot become a firefighter in Lee County, at least, and just have a firefighter license. You have to, at least the minimum, be a firefighter EMT. That's why we do both.
Oh, okay.
There are jobs in the state of Florida. A lot of these young men and women need to go to the Panhandle, middle of the state, and so on. If you write your ticket as a firefighter, if you're a firefighter paramedic, and part of that expansion would be for us, and I failed to mention that if we ever got an expansion, had enough ability to do it, we would bring a paramedic program on top of our EMT program.
Okay, so currently, how many are sponsored students at the academy?
So we run about 40 in a class for law enforcement and 40 average in corrections. 98% of those in law enforcement and about 100% of those in correction are all sponsored. We bill the agency. So at the end, they say, save me 15 spots. Okay, then I get Collier County, then I get Naples PD and Mark, all those agents, and we try to balance it out to no more than 40, span of control. Okay, we do go over every once in a while on that, but it's tough. Almost every one of them are sponsored. For law enforcement and corrections, basic recruits, fire and EMT, almost 100% of them are open enroll. They have met all the minimum qualifications to come in. It goes off of a point system. We have a very elaborate point system to come in. My fire coordinator is a retired fire chief from Lehigh, so he understands that very well. And my coordinator for the EMT program is actually a flight medic for the EMT.
Okay, and I guess where I'm going with this is, for the ones that are sponsored, are we breaking even, so to speak, on and considering not just our cost for instructors, but our cost for facilities and everything that goes with it, what kind of do we have a shortfall? In other words, when you factor in.
So the answer to that, it doesn't matter if you're sponsored or open enroll, what we have is a fee disclosure sheet. It costs them the same. Either the agency's paying for them,
Okay.
or the individual student, and there's grant opportunities, Pell grants, VA and all that, that we use. We have the financial aid team at Fort Myers Technical College services our students. So to answer that, we make money. It's because of the licensures. That's how we get money from the state, or what we call WITIS funds. The amount of students that we produce each year really help out how we are all funded, because the amount that we licensed.
Okay, yeah, because I'm all happy for, we need law enforcement, we need all of these service people desperately, but on the other hand,
we make a lot of money for the district.
They have a budget, and hopefully they're paying their share, so
Yeah, they do.
I'm glad to hear that they do.
They pay no different than if you walked in and says, I
going.
want to pay for myself, I made it. It's the same fee disclosure sheet for that recruit. The agency either gets billed, and within 30 days, we get a bill from, we get it from their HR departments, or the individual recruit will pay at orientation upfront.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Gittens, please.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Thank you all for the updates, and it's exciting to hear about the partnerships that you have going. Mr. Everly, earlier in the conversation, you made a statement that the businesses and some of the leaders that you had talked to, and I'm quoting you, said to seriously consider a certain area. I missed that somehow. What was the area?
That would be the Alico corridor. So we're looking at the east area. The Alico corridor, is projected to be the hub really of Southwest Florida when it comes to economic growth. They would just strongly recommend that you would put if there was ever an extension, annex, whatever we want to call it, of a Fort Myers Technical College, because you already have the certification and the co-accreditation, you would do it as an expansion, an extension, just like Fort Myers, the Public Service Academy is off of Fort Myers Tech. Put it in that area somewhere. That's what they strongly recommend.
And I know I've spoken with some of the county leaders about that area as well, and how the proximity to the airport and et cetera, that would be a prime space. That area that we are looking at, property we've spoken about before, and I have brought up the fact that I feel that should, more so than being a K through 8, because we can't get kids across the street from the other side of 82 without some assistance or transportation, that area should definitely be considered as a technical area. And I know it's big, and I know you're saying it can do a lot of things, but priorities. Couple of other questions. Mr. Peace, I think it was, you mentioned about the auto and marine areas and the Cape. What is the projected time for that to happen?
So again, we're obviously just now in the visionary phase. We would bring that to you. I believe that that the operations team is going to be bringing that to you in the next couple of weeks. But the idea would be to do a master campus plan, which I think would be great for getting out to the partners, right? So we can. When I went up to, we went up to Sarasota to Manatee Tech, and they had these huge cardboard things that showed, here's the master plan, right? So the goal that we've talked about with the operations team, academic service, everyone, is let's go ahead and get approval to move forward. Once we move forward, of course, my understanding is it takes about 6 months to a year to do the RFQ, then to start the design work. Once we have the design of the master plan for phase 1 and phase 2, we can start getting out there to the community, and I'll sell it all day long, just like I was selling to you guys earlier. That's huge for me. And so basically, the short answer is 1 year for design work, basically 1 year to build, and then my dream would be to open either in August of 2023 or January of 2024 for the phase 1.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Everly, you were talking about the gun range. Do you use the gun range, the outside one, I believe it is in Lehigh, off of Gunnery?
No, we can only use with the Florida FDLE certified gun ranges. That is not one of our off-site. Our main one is, if you're saying gun range, the indoor range, it's the Lee County Sheriff's Office at the Buckingham Airfield. The indoor gun range is where we use our.
Okay, that is indoor.
I'm sorry,
I don't know
that's the
why
indoor.
I
I'm
thought that
sorry.
was.
Yes,
Okay,
that
so
is
that's
our
the same
main.
one.
Yes, that is our main gun range that we use for all of our recruits.
Okay, which leads me to my next question, and thank you, Ms. Morgan, for bringing the question up. If you can please put up slide number 18.
I'm not sure which slide. The numbers aren't on here.
It says 18, keep going. One more, right there. I have been saying this forever and a day, and I understand the frustration the superintendent was saying, but according to this, from 2017 to 2021, the East Zone has been the largest draw, as well as Charlotte County, which is eastern area as well. And I just have never been able to figure out why we have not looked at doing something sooner in the East Zone. And when it was on the 5-year plan, then it was switched to the 10-year plan. And that is just amazing to me that we have overlooked the numbers that are very clear. If you add the East and Charlotte County together, that's the majority of your students. And they are traveling from an area where the demographic spends 25% of their livelihood on transportation to get to other places to work and to school. And I really have a hard time understanding why for all this time we haven't looked at that. And the superintendent was saying that we should champion this like we did the half-cent sales tax. So I want to go on record that as Ms. Patrica championed the half-cent sales tax, I would like to champion this project. Since the majority of it is in the district where I live and represent, and I think we need to get out there and get on it sooner than later. The numbers clearly show that we should have done this a long time ago. And where the necessity is for people that have lost jobs in a lower income area, they need this type of thing. And if they're the ones that are traveling, I just don't understand it. So I may get voted down on this, but I really would like to start the project, as the superintendent mentioned, and I would like to champion it to get businesses to work with. We have the Eastleigh Co-op in that area, and we're working with businesses and other community entities, and we want to get involved. We want to be a part of this. It's our community. And I don't know who's making the decisions not to include certain people, but I am saying on record that that's what we need to do sooner than later. And I know we're going to have a presentation coming up soon, but I would really like to have an opportunity to sit down with someone and talk about, put a timeline on paper. We've got to do something and do it now. From 2017 to 2021, and the numbers are still just rising. And I am not attacking you. I am just, please don't think I'm attacking you, but I am just very adamant about our priorities and our needs are not, and I hear it in you guys' comments and in the superintendent, that we've really got to move on this, and we've got to. So I don't know where we go from here with that, but I really want to be a part of moving this along.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens. And I'm sure they're going to get back with you on that one. Ms. Fisher, and then Ms. Giovanelli, and then Ms. Patrica.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank you for the presentation, first of all. And I did being a Cape resident, I had an opportunity to go spend a little bit of time with Mr. Pease and to see visually where the proposed expansions would take place. And I will say this, that in Cape Coral, we have more canals than Venice, Italy. We have no marine service technology teaching place currently. And I know that recently, along with our local business people, we have had people like Anheuser-Busch come in and make investments in small marinas in Cape Coral and Pine Island and expand at Burnstone Marina because of the need of the amazing amount of boaters that we have. So those technicians, some of whom came from Fort Myers Tech, are really in high demand, and they are needing, a lot more. So I think that along with the East Zone, we need to make a move in the Cape Coral area now. Cape Coral is proposed to have over 400,000 residents at capacity, and we're just a little over 200,000 now, and we're really saturated with the need. So thank you guys for your work, and anything that I can do on that end to help, I would like to also. And I really appreciate your vision, Mr. Pease. It's amazing. Thank you.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Yeah. So I'm excited about this because my husband went through the very program. So it's a wonderful program. One of the things that I was curious about, because it's something I've been talking about for a while, is like the lineman trade. Like, is there any way that, has anybody did any research on that to see if that's something we could offer at one of our schools, especially maybe the new, because I mean, after Hurricane Irma, and we all, anybody who's gone through a hurricane realizes the weight or the what's involved in not having to get the linemen that come from out of state. If we could be the one training those to go to other states when the need arises, I think would be like something that would be awesome. And I don't know if I know that Lee County Co-op would be interested, but I don't even know what the logistics of that is. But I would love for someone to have some information on that because I recognize the need. Just a short little story. I personally, my mom made me take a class. It was cake decorating class on Michigan years ago, and I left there sick because I think I ate more icing than I did cake decorating. So just for fun, I do like icing. But it was a great experience, and so for more opportunity for any child and student and an adult, person in school would be, I think it's, in Lee County would be awesome. So I'm very supportive and I'm excited. What's the status on the land? Do we, for the East Zone, did we decide on something? Because I wasn't real clear. Ms. Morgan mentioned that, and we didn't really get clarification on that, I don't think.
We have a piece of land that we are in due diligence on.
Oh, okay, it's existing.
Yes.
Gotcha, okay. And what else did I have? Oh, a statement that one of the students said in the videos that I loved. It's not a boring old school. And I actually love that because it certainly isn't. Thank you.
Ms. Patrica?
Thank you very much for being here. I think you're all rock stars. If you could, Director Peace, when you need help in Tallahassee on a bill that's getting traction, please reach out. I will not advocate with representatives and senators who don't like me, but I can certainly call the ones that do like me and ask them to support whatever it is we need. I wasn't aware that that was going on this year, so don't ever hesitate to, talk to the superintendent and then reach out to us and let us know what kind of support you need. If I may, through the chair, respond to Ms. Morgan. I believe the Alico corridor development is a game changer in terms of the relationship between the district and the county and the district and business leaders. And I'm seeing that start to develop, and I'm seeing a sense of urgency surrounding that. So I agree that we need to pursue that, but I'm also seeing the sense of urgency coming at us as opposed to us knocking on the door. I feel like it's becoming mutual, if that makes any sense at all. I think that expansion is really changing things in this county. I'm going to ask you a difficult question that you don't have to answer right now, but what do you need from us to make everything that you just said successful? I know individually, for example, You're running both PSA and all of the technical colleges, and you have one title and you're doing two jobs. So, what each of you individually do you need from us as a leadership team to make this successful? I'd like you to put some brain matter to that and get answers back to the superintendent so that he could share them with us, please, if you don't mind. Mr. Everly, you're obviously the one who's doing two jobs.
I would answer that. We get full support from this district. We're not in any way if receiving any type of, this is one of the big 5 goals that you heard Dr. Atkins say that. Dr. Spiro is really championing this along with us over this past year of moving up. He has some goals here of dual enrollment increases and so on, but we need to expand if we're going to do that. We have to make money for us to grow. So there's a lot of opportunities here. You got a great team up here. We have Rita that works with us and is funneling these young men and women that are graduating schools and doing it at the high school level as it is. I think it is once you hear what operations and business services is going to put in your laps, decisions have to be made, obviously, on, it's tough. You have so much money. So once you make that decision, I think then we can go champion from there as a team. Like I mentioned, just came that invitation that really came through Rita. Horizon Council has asked us to be on a panel this coming up month. So that is going to start, and then maybe from there it'll start getting some more traction. Your question, board member.
All right, good, thank you. When did half-penny sales tax revenue start to come in, Dr. Atkins? 2019. If you could refresh my recollection.
I wanted to say it was January of the following the election in 2018, so.
2019.
2019.
So January of 2019.
Well, there was a lag, so I want to say they started collecting in January and we started getting paid in like March.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've done a lot of construction of K-12 schools and we're pursuing construction of K-12 schools. I hear the urgency regarding expansion here and expansion out east, but I just, we look at growth from 2017 or need from 2017 to today, we have to have the understanding that the revenue hasn't been there that entire time. So I wanted to throw that out there. And finally, Director Peace, I have to say to you that I haven't seen you come in front of this board since you became the director out there, and to see you develop and to see you sitting here so in command of the subject matter and Cape Coral Technical College is it's a proud moment for me because I think you're awesome. We go back to Hurricane Irma and our time together there, and it's just really great to see you here with your arms fully around, not just what's happening there, but what's going to happen in the future, and I really appreciate you. So,
Could I say something relative to that, since you've mentioned it? What's been impressive, he's gone out, a lot of these slides and things, he's gone out and gotten the architectural drawings from other places and used it. It's almost like he's acting as an architect, CAD CAM, just all this stuff, putting this design together ahead of the design team, so to speak. So it's just been very, very impressive.
Yeah, he's really.
I appreciate it, and I am definitely big on visuals, as you saw, so thank you for your support. And I do remember cleaning toilets at midnight during Hurricane Irma at South Fort Myers High School.
That's it, I'm done, thank you.
Well, I would just like to say thank you as well. I know I've had, both of those are in my districts, Cape and North. I'm not afraid to go across the bridge. I do it all the time. And John, thank you when I came over and toured and everything. And I will have to say too, being in the workforce as well, and knowing that some of our students are being placed in, I know they just placed 5 in hospitality into the Ritz and different hotels and country clubs. And that's an avenue for the businesses as well. So the businesses have the opportunity to log in to the schools and pull from there. So when they're in need of help, they have that, which is great for the people out there in the community to know that they have a workforce base to pull from. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And then Ms. Davis, thank you for the signing. And then I was trying to remember Daniela, I cannot say her name, the scholarship that we received from FSBA actually went to a young lady who did the signing for the workforce signing day, Daniela Orweja. Yes, so she was received a $500 scholarship from the FSBA. to help her get started. So that was great. And I will tell you, being out there in the community all the time, and that the train to gain, we have a lot of kids. I met a young man who just graduated from Fort Myers High. His goal is, he wasn't going to college, he's going into construction. And so he was really excited. So I shared that information. So having that information for us when we're out there talking to people, it's really good because we can share all the good stuff that's, taking place. And Mr. Everly, you're doing a great job with everything that you do, all of you. Just thank you for sharing and, giving us the workforce that we need here in Lee County. I appreciate that. And I don't know if there's any, and then, of course, please let I did have one other question. Please make sure we let Ms. Gittens know whatever she needs to do. And on the East, when they show the East, and I know this is not trying to be a negative, but in the hospitality industry, you have corporate restaurants. They always look at where they place these strategically placed restaurants to make sure that they're not pulling the customers from one base to the next base and then having to close because they don't have enough clientele to enter that. Do we ever fear that would take place in pulling, and that may be Ms. Ebal, pulling, placing these strategically where we're not going to pull all the people out of one school to take to another school so the other school doesn't have enough people in there? If that makes sense, what I just said.
To answer that a little bit, Madam Chair, on that, that was part of our vision. We have that plan and what needs to expand, what's growing. You also have to take and consider the Glades International Airport, and we thought of that as well. The job opportunity and growth that has happened just in the Glades County north of Okeechobee that has been repurposed as an international cargo airport. Everything that we're doing is we're adding either expansion to current both Fort Myers Tech and Cape Coral, and if we were able to have an extension campus, those would also be moving some current programs and adding ones that are in need right now. When we build these, and I don't want to speak for operations and stuff, but a lot of these, majority of these programs, you're building shell classrooms. The economy's going to change. New things will come in. Linemen, using that as what Board Member Jumia, we can make that, the classroom setting could be used for multiple programs. So we're able to adjust to those, and is really whatever our economy's demand is.
Okay, and then when we say East could actually be Michigan Courts, yeah. Marsh Avenue, it's not necessarily Lehigh.
Yeah, there's
so
some
of those numbers are
I think we'll be coming to you at the next meeting.
Okay, so you'll have the breakdown of what is Lehigh and what is out of Lehigh? Because
No,
when people see Lehigh, I'm sorry, East Zone, I think that people have that perception that it is just in one area. So I just wanted to try to understand what East means.
I don't
Not
believe
taking
that.
away from Lehigh.
May I please speak? East Zone is not just Lehigh, and people need to understand that. East Zone goes from the county line in the south all the way up to on the other side of 75. And we have to stop that concept of, we're doing this for Lehigh. That is not
Well, that's
what
why I'm
I'm
saying
saying.
that, yeah.
And that's why I mentioned Charlotte County. Charlotte County is a part of that whole eastern, you just mentioned going out into Glades, all of that area.
Right.
It's very expansive. So some people, it's kind of a turnoff to some people to say, oh, we need to do this for Lehigh. And it's my goal to help people see it is the eastern part of Lee County and not just Lehigh. So all of these numbers are showing that people are coming from a vast area, not just one little area. So, and my question was as well, the breakdown, kind of piggybacking on the question that she just had about certain programs going up and down depending on what. So when we look at a 38.84% coming from the East Zone to Fort Myers Tech, how is that broken down? Is that a majority in one particular program? Is it programs that can be shared if there were a new facility? And I agree, I'm not looking at shutting down one area to help another, but then where are the demographics and how can we share this out? Because if we're thinking the area right off of the New Alico Road, well, you're still talking about the people from Charlotte County coming quite a ways, and those from Hendry County coming quite a ways. It's a little closer, but they're still having to travel. So that's what I mean about being strategic and prioritizing where is the best place for somebody coming from here and here and here to get to quickly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you.
Madam Chair, if I could just wind up, we have one more slide, which actually is yours, but before we get to that, I just wanted to thank you all for listening to this. As you heard earlier, it has been challenging as we've moved forward, trying to develop a timeline with this, and a lot of that is around limited funding. So as you think the next couple of weeks, as you take that time to think about the presentation that you've heard today, the capital improvement plan will be coming forward. One of our goals today was to gain some clarity around the board's desire in terms of the tech colleges, the East Annex, the PSA, and I think some of that's been has been cleared up quite a bit for us today. But when you ask, what can we do, it's going to come down to prioritization. So, I would ask you over the next couple of weeks for each of you to think about that as that plan comes forward to you. In each of our strategic plan areas, we do have a champion on the board for each area, and the champion for this is Ms. Jordan. I believe you've already kind of given your little update.
I was going to say that.
But
I did that.
But I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to put your picture up and acknowledge that you are the board member who has worked most closely with this particular area and working with the partnerships, and we wanted to thank you for that as well.
Thank you. No, but I've already shared that, and they know that I'm there whenever they need. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I ask a favor of the board? And
you want to do that?
Of course, say no, but I have a personal commitment. I need to move out of here relatively soon. But if we could move the agenda review up, so I'll be here for that, and then let you do the prioritization of workshop topics, if that's okay.
Yes, that would be fine.
Do we need consensus?
Do we have consensus? Ms. Morgan, would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Ms. Vaughn?
Absolutely.
Ms. Gittens?
Yes.
Yes.
Me, yes. I'm sure, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Atkins, go
Thank
ahead,
you. I
please.
appreciate that, Madam Chair. So we'll just move right into board member questions, the agenda review. So the first question that I have is H7, approval of the memorandum of understanding with Harry's Helping Program. And for that question, I believe we have Ms. Marcia Burr to provide a response. The question is, how many students are we actually serving? What schools for demographics?
Okay. Good afternoon. Okay, so the first question was, did you have all three of them, or did you just want the one?
Well, you can do all three. The second question was that I have was from H10. So that's approval of amendment number 2 for the FY21 Adult Education Family Literacy Act Adult General Education
That's
Grant,
you.
which
That's
again,
Rita.
So the first one was, let me back up a minute, make sure we're doing this in the correct order. The first one that we had was H7, approval of memorandum of understanding with Harry's Helping Program. So that one is how many students are we actually serving, what schools or demographics? That's the first question.
Okay, and thank you. That is for the Early Childhood Center alone. And we have about 130 families that come to the Early Childhood Center. I think part of that question as well was the demographics of that, and we, as we presented earlier, in the school year to you, we serve the most at-risk families in the district, And so this is designed to provide them with enough meals for non-perishables for about 30 meals for a month. So they get 1 month's supply of food, and they pick it up right there at the Early Childhood Center as they come and get their students.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the chair needed to step out for a few minutes, so Ms. Giovanelli, that was your question. Did you
That's
have-
good. I just actually, it's just kind of community awareness and that kind of thing. That's all I'm asking.
And that originated from us because of a directive from the Head Start office to make sure we're doing all we can to meet the food insecurities that the families were facing.
Thank you.
Okay, next question that we have.
Wait a second,
Hang on,
Ms. Gittens had a question.
Ms. Gittens had a
I don't know if
question
it's
on
the
that.
same person, but on the H1 and 2, I just wondered, could we get a short description of what those are really about?
All right, so agenda item H1 and H2.
And 2, yes, they're, hold on, let me pull it up.
Approval of rapid credentialing amendment.
Right, hold on, let me get back to it. Yeah, just a quick, brief overview of those two would be good.
All right. Regarding the rapid credentialing grant, that was something that was already approved by the board. Those were grants that the state gave through the federal government tied to the HERF grants. They were quick programs. We used some of those funds for one of our fire programs. They were used also at Cape Coral Tech and Fort Myers Tech for the nursing programs. What happened was we did not use an example. We had enough funds for 36 firefighters, only 24 qualified. So we had some extended funds, so did both Cape Coral Tech and Fort Myers. At that time, the grant, the way it was written, you could not repurpose those funds in any way. With a little bit of, from all the technical colleges back up to the DOE and up to Tallahassee, they allowed us to do an amendment. We did that with the grants department, and we were able to purchase equipment related to those programs to use those funds up, which we did. Like for the academy, we bought 30 brand new air packs that we had to have, and a training smoke machine that simulates a fire inside a building. We use funds instead of giving back, and so did also, we had some scholarships we did at Cape Coral Tech and some equipment purchased at FMTC Tech. So that was the amendment for that, ma'am.
Okay, and is there anywhere, bless you, is there anywhere that that's documented or something that you can send it to us later, not now, but just to send it to us?
So that was, and it had to be pre-approved through the grants department. I'll let Terry talk about it, but yes, that.
And you don't need to go into details, Terry. I get it, and I can get with you about that. On the second one, the H2, the recidivism.
Good afternoon. The recidivism grant was the grant for 4 schools. They received 4 elementary schools that received specific to adding additional money for summer programs or tutoring or professional development. And what we're doing right now is simply changing some budget lines to accommodate some of the changes in staffing for their programs. So each school received approximately $30,000 to $40,000. And the summer school changes on staffing is what that reflects.
And one last question based on his with H1, how was it decided which schools would get that extra?
So the recidivism grant was given to us by DOE. That was decided by DOE. On these 4 schools made improvements, and we want them to continue with their progress. So this is what their allocation is. Now here are the items that you can spend it on. And the same thing with
the other one.
The other grant is, this is funding for this. That's what the DOE will give you specific requirements. And with these grants, they allowed for other things, but they were pretty specific. They kept denying things that they had in their RFP and really wanted the face-to-face instruction this summer. So that's what we added.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Ms. Candy, while you're in front of the microphone, let me just jump down to H11 if it's okay. because she's going to answer that question as well, and then we can go back up and get the question from Ms. Date.
Well, I think my questions on this was for something else, but I can't figure out what, because I was doing this like in the middle of the night.
So your question had to do with the Sylvan Learning contract that is paid for from a grant. And so the Title I, there's a set aside for homeless. And so Title I had an allocation for tutoring. And what happened was the contract, it took several months for them to negotiate the contract. It's the first time. And so after they had the contract negotiated, then getting the signatures and all, so they didn't get it signed until April.
Okay.
And we're here now. It hasn't been implemented yet because we're waiting for approval from you. So we'll really only have about a month to implement tutoring for our students that are considered homeless. But we're already working on the contract for next year to get it signed now for that. And we don't lose any funds. The funds roll over.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
does that answer everything for you?
Can I
thank you.
just ask on
Go ahead,
the end
go
of that? So how, this is for the homeless students for tutoring and all of that. How does that affect or overlap with the summer program for all students? Is this an additional for them?
So there is specific grant funding for our homeless students, and so this is another opportunity to give them one-to-one additional assistance. Just like you've already approved a different contract that was for our migrant students, which is a different contract, but specific to tutoring. So we also have tutoring and summer school programs and all, but at different grants.
So they'll get a little bit extra, is what we're saying. Okay, thank you.
I just want to know, do you have any idea of how many we have?
That's the question I had.
Homeless students?
Yes, please.
Yeah, what was the number? Students.
About 750.
750?
Wow, thank you.
Ever been?
Actually lower than what it's been in the past, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's usually over 1,000, so yeah, but still surprised.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Deb.
750.
And then just to make sure that we thought we had a question about H10, approval amendment number 2 for FY21 Adult Education and Family Literacy Act Adult General Ed Fund. And this is the, how many students do we serve? Are we hiring a new grant specialist? And if so, where will they be located? And so Ms. Davis is here to respond to that question. I think that was yours, Ms. Giovanelli.
I'm sorry, I got you out of order too, I'm sorry.
That's 3,000 plus adult ed students in a non-COVID year will be served, and 30,000 plus CTE course enrollments. I didn't list those as students. Some of our students take more than one CTE course, but they will benefit. This individual's compensation will be shared over 3 grants, and they will be housed in my 2 departments. And just to give you some indication, just a little more context, we always look at like districts when we propose. We've been requesting a similar position for the last few years, so we're very grateful that we got the internal yes to move forward, so we appreciate your approval. Polk County has 15 full-time CTE staff members. I have 7, and we are like districts. 4 of my team members are shared between adult education and CTE. So you can see we do similar programs and offerings for enrollment with half the staff. So this would be of great benefit. Additionally, it's also consideration for the budget department. We have up to 9 employees contacting one of their team members during grant season, and this way we could consolidate that and have 1 or 2 team members interfacing. And so we believe this would be more efficient use of funds as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next set of questions come or hit in the Human Resources Division. The first one, though, I believe Dr. Savage is going to respond to it. This first question, approval of the personnel recommendation. Question is Operations Executive Director, Operations Planning, Project Management, District Planning, Director Planning, Growth and Capacity, Safety and Security from Director to Safety and Security Coordinator, Threat Assessment. Questions are, what is the motive for changing these 2 employees' positions? Second, it is an apparent demotion. Will their salaries now reflect the downgraded positions? 3, what happens to their vacant positions? Are they being filled, advertised, eliminated? And my understanding about the salary, I know Dr. Pruitt did respond to that one, which is salary would be commensurate with the new position, is my understanding. So Dr. Savage.
Absolutely, that's correct, Dr. Atkins. I try not to discuss individual employees' personnel situations here at the public meeting unless it's absolutely needed, but they are in fact administrators and leaders, and I'm confident that they're able to endure my sharing what I will right now, as well as I can provide additional information if needed. Just first important to state that our budgets have not yet been finalized, so it is from a position elimination standpoint, they have not been finalized until budgets are finalized at this precise moment in time. But division budgets have been moving, but those final eliminations, reclassifications, or new positions are certainly not final until they are. That said, in both of the cases of the two individuals, they are accepting positions that they actually applied for. These are individuals that are highly qualified for the positions that they are accepting, and if approved by the board, it's my belief that they will contribute tremendously to our organization from each of their respective positions. In fact, I would go so far as to say that we would have an exceptionally difficult time finding anyone more qualified for those respective positions. As for the positions that the employees are scheduled to leave behind, one position is being recommended to be eliminated, and the other is being recommended for reclassification. But they're still in the budget process, so there's nothing final. I just want to reiterate one more time that the current employees are well positioned to contribute tremendous value to the organization within their respective recommended roles, and I'm happy to provide additional backup documentation as needed, and certainly the employees are able to speak for themselves if that is desired.
That's good, thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Fisher?
So, Dr. Savage? Yeah.
Dr. Savage?
Yeah. So then, those, like a change from director to coordinator, is that a salary decrease?
Yes, if the recommendation moves forward, it would be the salary would be commensurate with the coordinator position, and the director position was recommended for elimination.
And then the same thing with executive director to director?
Yep, the salary would certainly be commensurate with the position that they would be taking if accepted by the board.
So then
be paid as a director, yes.
Correct.
They would be paid as, a director would be paid as a director.
So then I'm understanding that these employees are in agreement that they are going to accept positions that are lower salary?
These employees actually applied for these positions themselves. They applied for them.
Oh.
And they'd be, and I'd love to get into the specifics for each one of them. I'd talk about some of the great things that they said and those conversations, but just, I think it'd be better to hear from them directly. If anyone would like to hear from them directly themselves, I think that would be I know they'd be happy to have those conversations.
Thank you.
Ms. Gittens, and then Ms. Vaughn.
Okay, I'm looking at, and this is probably Dr. Pruitt, I'm looking at J2 and 3.
Is it on the same one, though?
No, we're still on J1.
Oh, okay.
Let's finish this one first. Ms. Vaughn, did you have something pertaining to this one? Would you please, and then I'll go back to this one.
Yeah, I'm wondering, as you know, I'm always asking about the organizational chart, and I'm wondering if there have been, well, it would be proposed until it's accepted, revisions in the organizational chart, and I know there's probably still maintenance. Is that still an open area? So that's what I'm wondering about. What's happening with the operations division, your organizational chart?
Yes, it fits all within that exact context. The entire division budgets, the way we submit them, is one full division budget. Then, as they kind of get vetted through the budget process, we bring them back to the chiefs and superintendent. We get together and review them as an entire team. We have not yet gotten to that final stage. And we're just in that process as we speak. But certainly through that process, the intention is to bring that information once all of those decisions have been finalized, if there's tweaks and things along those lines. And I would say that during the current time period, it's an excellent time to think about all those pieces and all those moving parts that have an impact. So you're absolutely on point. That's specifically the time that we're at right now, and it absolutely is impacted by the organizational structure and whatnot.
Yeah, because I was going to say, obviously, with changing positions, some being added or subtracted, it's going to change the chain of command, so to speak, and who reports to whom, and, do we have too many people in one area and holes in other where somebody is taking on too much responsibility? So that's part of this then, right?
That's right, it absolutely is. And it's all spelled out for us internally. We just aren't at a point yet where the recommendation is final for the board. It's just the nature of this time of year and the pieces that come forward, but we certainly look forward to when we get the finality of it, presenting it and kind of articulating it, not just for you, but for the schools and everyone else, so they really understand the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else on this certain topic? Okay, Ms. Kittens had something too, Dr. Atkins, whenever you get to.
I have a quick question on J2 and 3. J2, when you look at the documents for departments on page 3, and we have the listing of the secretaries, and I'm wondering about that, especially because when Ms. Thomas was first hired, it was my understanding she was going to be taking Susan's position, and that's what she was trained for or whatever. And the way this is listed here, I don't know if this is, I don't think this is correct.
Her position, she was moved from being the executive secretary to Dr. Carlin when Dr. Carlin was executive director of government. I don't remember the whole title. And that position was moved into the board office. That is the reason that she has a different job description than the other two. So it's the same pay rate as the other two, but it's a different job description. And I know that Ms. Stillwell is looking to see if we need to reclass that to the same job description as the other two ladies.
Well, what are we, I mean, we did have an office manager, and is that position now just removed, or, and I'm also...
I can't speak to that. That's a budget question, so.
I'll try to speak to it, though. Ms. Still and I were the ones that actually had the conversation with Ms. Thomas, so we had always made it clear it was moving an executive secretary position into the board office. We had not filled the office manager position, and as we were looking forward to what we wanted to do in the future. So there was never a promise made to fill her position through Ms. Thomas. That was a suggestion that had been made, but we had always been clear what we were doing at this time, and that we'd come back and look at it later once the board had an opportunity to work under its current configuration.
Well, and where are we with that right now?
We're in much of a transition, I think, right now. I think we've got other things to focus on, but it's something that I think that, you can look at moving forward with your new governance team.
Okay, because I've always felt that since Ms. Thomas did the lion's share of holding down the fort for all of us for the length of time that she did, that there should have been some recognition of that, but we can talk about it later. J3, my question is, what percentage of the staff are using the facilities and the incentive plan?
I didn't see that question prior to today, so.
So you can give it to me later if you care to.
Looking at the board agenda item, I believe it says 70% of eligible employees participate.
Okay. And then lastly, on L, well, I'm sorry, I'll get to that when you get to L.
Okay, and Ms. Fisher, you had a question?
Yeah, back to J2, Dr. Pruitt. I was just wondering if executive secretary is like a current proper usage of that position. And I was wondering, when is the last time that those job descriptions were updated, considering the changes that have taken place in the last several years with technology, et cetera?
Well, all job descriptions have been updated to meet the new standard within the last couple of years. In terms of that specific job description and a review of the details of it, I'd have to go back and look to see the last time that was done, but the shell and the structure of it has been updated in the last couple of years.
Okay, yeah, and I was just wondering about, in many other districts and in the private sector, they're more referred to as administrative assistants and.
For sure.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if it was time for us to update that a little bit.
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. I was going to say that, so thank you for that. Ms. Gittens?
Can we add that to our topics or workshops or whatever to discuss those
We have that on our
positions?
list, so we can do that when we get there. Okay. Dr. Atkins?
Okay, the next question that I have is actually J4. That question is approval of the annual expenditure for John's Eastern Company, Inc. Question, please provide a detailed line expenditure of accounting of all payments for 2019 through 2021. I want all expenditures in detail. Please have John Eastern provide all payments made in detail to any attorney settlements, etc.
So the question doesn't match the board agenda item. The board agenda item is actually for the approval of the expenditure to John's Eastern for the contract that this board approved on May of 2020. So the question that is being asked would be separate from this board agenda item. And if it is the will of the board that we provide a report or presentation, we're happy to do so, but it's not germane to this board item.
You have one there.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Giovanelli?
Well, this actually triggered my questions, and by statute, I'm entitled to these. This is financial information, so I still would like it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
And I would as well, please.
Thank you. Dr. Atkins?
All right, I will go ahead unless there's any other questions from J. We'll go on down to K. The first one is approval to extend for 180 days RFP, structured cabling and telephone systems installation and support. Question is, why are we extending without going through an RFP process? When was this last performed at these schools? I can see that it is referendum funds. Can you advise and explain this need and the need for the extension?
Okay, I'd be happy to explain. To first explain why we have extended without going out for another RFP, we will eventually have to go out for another solicitation. However, the labor rates have been trending upward, and we know that when we do go out for a solicitation that we're going to end up paying higher rates. So we've opted to extend this as long as we possibly can in order to maintain the rates that we have right now. Regarding the work, this is low voltage cabling, so this is any of the cabling that we use for network cables, telephone cables, things like that, but the majority of what this is being used for is our security implementations. So if you consider that everything from security cameras and other devices that we put in the schools are all cabled, and this is what this is for. And if you look at the agenda item, we did do a breakdown of the estimates by school for the various projects. You'll notice they vary quite a bit because of the scope, depending on the size of the school and what equipment has to go in that school.
Yeah, I saw that the high schools are it's more costly. Does this have anything to do with the Alyssa law too, part of this, or no, that's separate too?
No, the Alyssa's law has already, you guys approved the Centegix contract. We're not doing any structured cabling for this, for the panic alarm system.
I noticed that we do this every so often because I remember seeing this come up. So, and it wasn't all the schools. So how often do you have to perform this or make these changes?
Just as projects are being implemented. So the structured cabling actually lasts quite a long time. So you typically have two types of work that you're doing. One would be project related. In this case, we have several security projects. The other work that's done by the contractor is maintenance. So for example, if we have a lightning strike or something like that and we end up with cable that's damaged, they would go in and perform the repair work on those types of things. That's really a small minority of the expenditures. The majority of it is from project work.
Great. All right, thank you.
Dr. Atkins?
Okay. The next one is L5, approval of the expenditure for the IT and landscaping services. First question, what efforts are we making as a district to create low-maintenance, environmentally friendly landscaping? And then the second question is in-house or contracted out? So Ms. Cedino and Mr. Thompson.
Good afternoon, board members, Dr. Atkins, and fellow colleagues. So in response to question number 1, the landscaping beautification projects are typically handled at the school level. Thus, this bid was established mainly for schools to be able to, to obtain those type of services. However, when a school-based personnel seeks recommendations from us on what to plant and what to do, we do recommend that they go with plants and trees that are native to Florida, for instance, royal palms that are self-shedding, those type of trees and things like that. And then we also recommend xeriscaping to minimize the amount of water that is utilized for these type of plants. It's question number 2.
Ms. Vaughn, did you have?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and I actually had sent that in with the title, agenda-related questions. So I'm glad that you said that because it's obvious, and I do understand the mowing and all of that, because I know it's been brought up before that the schools that are kind of not really outliers, but outliers geographically use a different system. But it's obvious that landscaping is extremely expensive. So I'm glad. How many of the schools? So in other words, when they're putting in new landscaping or renovating landscaping, the schools are going to this lower maintenance and more environmentally friendly?
Yes, so what they do is as they do beautification projects for the facilities, they typically get a hold of us and they're like, okay, what's a better option? And also we try to work with them and recommend, things that are not invasive, that, require little maintenance, because at the end of the day, we know that the schools have a lot to do as well. So it's important that the lower maintenance type of plants and shrubs and things like that are better options for the schools.
Is that what's since you all do the mowing and all, is that what has gone into the newer schools, the brand new and newer?
So prior to this meeting, I did have a conversation with Mr. Scott from Construction Services, and I did ask him what the new approach is. So what he was informing me that what they typically do now is really do like royal palms at the front of the school, and then the designs for the landscaping are driven by 3 different entities. So what they do is based on what the local mandates are, that's how they would plant around the perimeter, and they try to avoid all that landscaping within the middle of the campus because of the same reasons as well.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. I think not only is it cost effective, but I think in this day and age we need to take a page from the book of places like FGCU that are really looking out for, we've done the things with, for COVID with the bottle fillers, but things like that, even without the COVID, it's something that I think we need to be, as a world-class education system, I think we need to be models for being recycling and all of those things that are so important. So thank you for recommending to the schools that they go with the environmentally friendly landscaping. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Ms. Kittens, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So as I'm looking at this, the category A that shows the mowing services, so you're saying that the budget is the 175, and those are the schools that fall within that budget that would use, what, outside contractors to do it because it's so large?
No, it's because of the distance and is the reason we put those 5 outlying schools on this contracted services portion.
Okay, and the other schools then?
We do the mowing in-house. We have a typical rotation that we do for the facilities. I'm thinking, if I'm correct, I believe the targeted number of cuts are about 21 per year per site. So we have our crews that are divided into 5 different regions, and then they go around and do their rotations within each of those facilities.
Okay, so the in-house maintenance staff does not ever have to do that? As far
Which
as
part?
the mowing?
Yes, we do mowing, and we also have just a contractor.
I don't mean in-house, meaning you guys' department. The schools.
Oh.
In-house maintenance people do not do mowing and all of that.
Well, they do to some extent. They do some stuff, not to the extent that we would do as far as like mowing goes. So, for instance, more at the high school levels, they do assist with the mowing of the fields and that type of stuff, that type of work.
About the 5 outlying schools.
Oh, is that
what you're talking about, Ms. Giddens, the 5 outlying schools?
Right, well, no, I understand the 5 outlying schools. I was just thinking about all the rest of them.
Like she said about the high schools, I mean,
Right.
like, for example, I know Riverdale has a turf management class.
Right,
And
and I
they
understand-
maintain their athletic fields, so they'll do that type of stuff. Otherwise, you know, our maintenance staff
does the rest
does
of.
all the rest of the stuff.
Okay, and with the landscaping, it's the same as well.
landscaping is typically school-based. You know, they depending on the beautification projects that they're trying to target, they pretty much kind of design and try to figure out what is it that they're looking for those beautification projects.
And kind of do their own. So that $225,000 is the budget overall. Do the schools get any portion of that for theirs, or if they decide to plant, marigolds, it's on them?
The 225 is what we call a bid expenditure. That bid expenditure basically gives us allowing the school district to utilize that $225,000 for these services, regardless of where the funding comes from. So as far as I know, and the school doesn't get very much money for any type of landscaping, so on and so forth. So if they were to do landscaping, that landscaping money would have to come from some sort of fundraiser or a booster club of something of that sort. The only type of landscaping we do in maintenance, if, for example, if we had a drainage issue and we had to pull up a sidewalk and it might have affected some hedges, we would put those same hedges back in there. But at the same time, the schools, they typically work with our zone manager and say, Mr. Batewell, Mr. Yumferman, Mr. Noel, we want to put these hedges in. What would you recommend? And at that point, we'll say, listen, these are the hedges we recommend. Calusias, they don't provide very much irrigation, and we want them to be set back 8 feet off the school for the reason we don't want roots going into the building. We don't want to create future issues for water intrusion into the building, so on and so forth. But that 225 is basically just allowing the flexibility of someone in the district to purchase up to that amount. As far as I know, no one spent that much money on irrigation.
So if they want to change, then they can request from you for it to come from the 225?
No, ma'am, they would have to fund it themselves. We would facilitate the project management for them. To alleviate that issue, we would manage the project for them, but they would have to fund the landscaping portion of it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Dr. Atkins?
Thank you very much.
Yes, have a good day.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the end of our agenda review. I don't have any other questions.
Are there any other questions before we move on to the next one?
I don't have a question, but I do want to let my colleagues and Dr. Atkins know that I will be voting no on the student code of conduct. I continue to be uncomfortable with the use of pronouns. I went through what we're supposed to be voting on tomorrow night, and I had asked early on that we make sure that the pronouns and the subjects and the objects and the sentences match, and they don't, and I think it's taking on a meaning that I feel uncomfortable with. So I just letting y'all know I'm not going to be part of the public participation tomorrow night, but I wanted to let you all know that this is not a poll, but I will be voting no. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Ms. Gittens?
Can I ask on that? Can we ask any questions about that at this point, or, regarding that
Well, if
We are
it's on the
voting on-
agenda review, you could ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, based on what Ms. Patrica was saying as well, and there's some, the verbiage seems to be the holdup. The verbiage and saying certain words and all that. And I don't know, did we, when it was brought up, did we really revisit that before we got to this point of, and like Ms. Patrica said, she had asked about certain words, and it's all still the same. So I'm a little confused as well as to suggestions that were made, if they were made, if changes were made.
And I know there were some changes made. Ms. Fisher?
I just want to know if Ms. Patrica or Ms. Gittens can direct us to exactly
That's
where
where I was
you're
trying to-
referring. That would be helpful.
I just had it up, and then I just went to the beginning of the document. Let me try to find it.
Yeah, same here, I'll look for it.
84 or something like that.
Is it elementary or secondary?
I'm looking at elementary.
Oh, look at elementary.
And so it would be the red line one?
Page 31, I'm sorry,
Of the-
page 33 out of 101?
Of the red line one?
No.
That's the changes, right?
Didn't we, I thought that was,
Dr. Atkins, is that the changes with the red lines?
Yes.
That's my understanding, yes.
and that would be the ones that we would look at, I thought.
Yes, that's the changes. The red line one is the changes.
And what page, Ms. Patrica?
33 out of 101. Or 107, sorry. So 35 of 107, preferential seating. Change the seating arrangement for a student in order to address their specific needs. It's not grammatically correct, and it feels like we're making some kind of a gender identity statement with that kind of language throughout, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I'll be voting no.
Okay, can you
I'm
please?
still trying to find where she.
Oh, because they took his and her out and put theirs.
Correct.
There.
It's on the red line, page 33.
It's on the red line, it's page 35, it's under preferential seating, and they changed the word to their versus his and her. So just made it all encompass versus his and her.
Oh, I thought we discussed those.
We did.
We did.
Did we agree to change it?
I'm just, as an individual
She
board
said
member,
it.
saying that I'm
She's
uncomfortable
uncomfortable.
with voting yes, so I will be voting no on that basis. I'm just letting you all know, I'm not trying to cause difficulty, I don't want to
No,
make these statements
I'm
tomorrow night. I'm just letting you all know
In
as a
other,
courtesy.
and in other locations, on page 36 as well, instead of saying his and her,
It says
it's their. It's just, again, encompassing everybody as a whole, I believe. I don't know, can Mr. Magnan speak on that, or, because I know he's here, or Mr. Bradley? Well, both of them are here. Is that okay, Dr. Atkins?
Grammatically
Yeah, that's
incorrect.
fine.
It is grammatically incorrect.
And Madam Chair, again, I
Yes,
do
you're
need to
yes,
take off. So
you're
you
fine.
have Dr. Pruitt here if you need her, and then I know Cindy can take us through the next
Yes,
phase, so
I got it.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we changed this, so thank you. Mr. Magnan, hello. Can you please share, I know, you know what they're referring to? Their
Yes,
versus
ma'am.
his and hers.
We made these changes based off on the feedback we received from some of the community input opportunities we had. And when we brought them forward to the board over the last couple of presentations, I know there was some discussion around this. The ones we didn't change were things that we were quoting directly from board policy or from the assessor documents. These were things that were organically put in by our own district staff. If there's a desire to change them back to the original wording, that's a pretty easy fix that we can do. However, the turnaround time on having the board, the approval process is something that I would have to check with staff on how that would affect the timeline of the code of conduct being approved.
Okay, Ms. Gittens?
Okay, this may be a crazy question, but even the LGBTQ plus students are still going to either be him or her. Am I correct? Am I saying that right?
This is not.
So I'm just saying that to say him or her or, is the same. I kind of, agree with Ms. Patrica on this. Regardless of what you decide, it's either his or her or him and her.
Is that like a universal? Because this is not an LGBTQ issue again, that we keep trying to make it to be, but it's not. This is the student code of conduct. And so was there because it's all of us, not
It was towards
us, theirs.
it was towards encompassing. I'm going to ask Mr. Bradley to discuss about the use of pronouns real quickly.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Fisher.
Yeah, so if we're talking about a student, isn't there plural, regardless of the LGBTQ potential inflection? I mean, if you're talking about a student, then wouldn't it be his or her? Or what's the singular pronoun you would use?
In usage today, all of the above are included. There can be a singular use for a person who represents as non-binary or non-gender conforming.
So then, in fact, grammatically correct aside, is this intended then to include that population?
And I didn't do the original writing. Do you want to?
It was the attempt to include all students, yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions regarding this?
May I?
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, Ms. Patrica, then can you give us any explanation?
Change the seating arrangement for students in order to address their specific needs. That's what I asked for at the very first reading. And as I went through the document in closer detail, I realized that was not done. I don't agree with the use of there in relation to a singular noun. I don't. I'm just voting no. It's not a
correct. And I think that's the feedback that we took back was the grammatical piece. So I'm hearing you refer to that one section, so we can make that change. That's not an issue to make those changes so that it sounds grammatically correct. I think the feedback we took wasn't to take there out necessarily, but to make the sentences, to make sure that they were grammatically correct.
And Ms. Vaughn?
Okay, and that as a former English teacher, for the most part, changing it to the plural and there would be how I would direct students. However, in this case, I don't even know what page I'm on, it looks like 36. It says personal connection with student. It wouldn't make sense under that heading to say that the teacher's not going to check in with every student in the class. Do you like where you're sitting today? It would be just with students that have particular issues, accommodations. And so you would either have to keep it this way. I mean, it can't be students there. There may be other places. You see that, Ms. Patrica?
It could be qualifying students, needy students, students in need of such checking.
Well, but it says
can be
personal
plural.
connection with student. It's advising on, what was this, the tiers? The tier.
And we can agree to disagree. And I can
No, generally speaking, I think it needs to be grammatically correct. And as I said, generally speaking also, I would advise, just make it easy and use there with the plural antecedent, but in that particular one, and probably some of the others, you're talking about one student at a time, so you can't do it. It wouldn't make sense.
And Ms. Fisher?
So then, I just found where Ms. Vaughn is, and I would still say that Ms. Patrica is right. Check in with students each morning in order to find out how their homework was the evening before. I mean, so don't most teachers ask the whole class?
Well, that's what,
Every day, if they're gonna, if they
well,
like where
I
they're
think the
sitting?
problem is the word
No,
there.
they have their
This is
homework.
the elementary code of conduct.
Right.
It's the problem.
Sounds like a simple fix to me. Change it to students.
Change what?
Change it to students, plural, and then it matches there, the pronoun plural.
Oh, do you see where they're talking, on the heading? Ms. Duncan, do you see that? Or Mr. Magnet, personal connection with
Yes.
students, S.
And then that
And then
matches
S
the
means
there.
Is that correct, English teachers? I'm not sure.
Is it, Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, of course
Okay,
it is.
and then even the one before that, page 35, and I know
For students, in order to address their specific
changing the
needs.
seating arrangements for a student in order to address,
Arrangements
Can't
for
you just-
students?
For students.
for student in order to address specific needs, forget his, hers, their.
Yes, we can do that.
I mean, you can just take all that out of there, his, hers, theirs, all of it can go away, and it just can be, change the seating arrangements for a student in order to address specific needs, period.
So wherever we could take it out, we'll take it out. Wherever we have there that it will remain, it will be with plural with students.
Thank you.
Does that work for
Get rid of the
For me.
pronouns.
everyone? Ms. Patrica?
Yeah, I'll have to see the finalized product before I vote yes, but yeah, if you can fix that, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Not just elementary.
Both of those, please.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and now we will be moving on, and Ms. McClung is here to assist us. Thank you so much. So we're on prioritizing workshop
sorry for that.
topics.
Yes, thank you. Nice to see you again this afternoon. So today's task is to look at the list of topics that have been brought forward and to come to consensus on whether or not you would like to have them as a workshop. We had 5 areas to discuss. When I heard the discussion earlier about the renaming of the executive secretary position, I did add that to the list. However, as I'm looking at the list,
There.
we do have one on job descriptions, so it seems like that would fit naturally in there. So with your agreement, I will roll those together.
Yes, and that's
Everyone okay
where
with that?
Ms. Vaughn had put that in there. So that's
I have a
correct.
handout.
And it says job description, superintendent, board secretaries is part of that. Ms. Patrica?
Well, I think that we need to add discussion regarding internal auditor and
Yes.
audit
We will.
committee.
We're going to do that.
I think RSM is on there.
Well, I know, but she's just started off with the first topic. We didn't get to that. We kind of like just jumped over, correct?
I was just asking if we could roll those 2 together, and then when we got to that, and then we'll start at the top and go through. But I wanted you to be aware that I had added that on as requested, but then realized it was probably really already there.
Yep, thank you.
So with your agreement to that, we'll go ahead and start. The first area was lighthouse complaints, the board complaints, complaint process, and RSM. And Ms. Giovanelli, that came to me, I believe it's your request through Attorney Dupree Bruno, so if you would like to comment on that?
Just that we need to, I mean, Ms. Patrica just brought it up, but the RSM was one of the things that, it's we received a letter recently. So I think that we have to discuss the RSM now, and then the auditor committee has, I don't know where the status is on that. And then regarding the complaints and everything, that was the process. There seems to be a glitch in some of the process, so I think we need to kind of go back and review that the process and make sure that there's no more glitches.
Okay, and if I may just address something, in speaking with RSM, prior to me asking them to send us a letter, saying that they would not be providing services to us any longer. We are mandated to have, so we are going to have this conversation.
Sooner than later.
Yes.
Like ASAP.
And so, and what they had described, and I believe it was in the letter as well, you all read the letter, they're advising us to try to get somebody to work in-house with us on that. So that's going to have to be something that we're going to have to bring back up, as you said, sooner than later, because this is something that is mandated by, by the state for us to have this. So this is going to come before us as soon as we can get a free date and maybe an extra meeting, but that's something we must do. So I don't know if we need it on this, because it's going to come before us in some sort of meeting, because we have to do this.
Then we'll just mark it as a yes, knowing that it needs to come forward, but I believe Ms. Gittens had a question.
Okay, Ms. Gittens.
I do have a question. One, let me start with the first one first, and it's probably for Attorney Dupuy Bruno. Is there anything in the statute about a period of time if we are looking for a new, employee? How long do we have that, within 30 days you have to have a new one or whatever? What is that according to the statute?
I'll have to research that, Ms. Gittens. I just know that the statute directs you to have an auditor, so sooner rather than later. In terms of time period, I'll have to look at the statute and research.
Well, just to make sure, because I know it's going to take us some bit of time to go through the process and to hire someone, so we just want to make sure that we're under the, proper time. And now I forgot my other second question, so I'll think of it. So.
And Ms. Gittens, with regarding that, so what we really need to, and I'm sorry that I did not have that ready for today, we need to find out what their last date is as far as their contract, because they will be, they will be with us until the last day of their contract.
We're done.
And
Done?
So they presented their report, and that's pretty much everything else that they had to do. The SOW is complete. And they're not doing any other SOWs.
So then again, I remember we did have where we had the clerk of courts who came in and did a presentation for us. So we will definitely start reaching back out immediately to get this done. And I know I did take that to Dr. Atkins the day that I received that email, and that you all received it as well. Ms. Vaughn?
I think it's extremely important that we have a very frank, candid conversation about what happened with RSM before we start talking about who we're going to hire again. Because my reading of the letter, the part of the letter that suggested that we hire somebody in-house, you read between the lines and it's saying somebody that will, I may have written it down, let's see, that will live up to the board's demands and expectations. I frankly feel that the attitude toward exhibited from this very dais toward professionals just a few weeks ago who were doing reports to us was embarrassing to me. It was a day I wasn't in because I wasn't feeling well. I was sitting there not believing what I was hearing. And let me just finish. I don't blame RSM for dumping us, and that's really what they did. This is a company that works in other school districts. They have an unblemished record, and somehow people from this board, and I don't know what phone calls happened in between, that maybe somebody, and all of us are, that's part of what we can do, call them and talk to them. There may have been other things that people said to them on the phone that none of us know about. But I surely know about what was said in the last time they appeared in this room, and I was humiliated, embarrassed for the conduct of at least one board member, the disrespect, and I think we need to get to the bottom of it before we take on whether we want somebody in-house or another group. We need to solve that issue.
I agree. The conversation that when I called them, they had asked me to give them a call, and I called Claire, and she asked me to wait and put Jennifer on the phone with her, and then she just proceeded to tell me that they've done a good job, providing what we've been asked, what they've been asked for, and that Jennifer said that she was not willing to have her staff go through this anymore, and that they would not be resigning a contract with us again. They would not be doing any more statements of work with us, and try to talk to them, and they said, if you need anything, call me anytime, but we will not be doing this. And I said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Could you please, put that in writing for me so that I can share it amongst the board? And within a couple hours, you had seen the letter, because they sent me the letter, and I asked them to detail the letter, which I assume that's what they felt that letter was. And so they said that they would help, recommend, or do whatever they need to do to help us get somebody. That was put out there, though. Ms. Giovanelli?
Thank you. So I wasn't able to participate, so I watched it a little bit later, and I too was appalled by the questioning that was being done when they were given their recommendation, their professional paid recommendation, and for best practices and for keeping us, the liability and risky situations. They were given their professional opinion, and it was discounted and discredited and actually embarrassing for us again as a board to have that kind of interrogating being done to someone that was just trying to help us. We paid them to help us. So it was, they're the professional, and we disregarded that, disrespected it, and it's not acceptable to, we don't expect us to treat our own staff that way, which they're actually our employee as well, and they should not have been treated that way. And so we do need to have a hard conversation on how we got here and where we're going to go with this, because this is clear. We were fired. So clearly this needs to be addressed as a board. And the only way to do that is to address how it came about for this to happen in this situation and why, and then, so that we're on the same page, because apparently we definitely weren't on the same page. So
I also think that they kept sending us they were kind of, and I know when Ms. Dupree, Bruno tried to call them as well, but their hands were tied on a lot of things that they could or could not do, as the one thing was out there for several months for them to do. But when they have to come back before us for every single thing that they have to do, that to them was that was definitely an insult, and that was, for them, it was us not trusting them enough to do the job that we wanted them to do. So I believe that was part of it. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, and so I just want to take a minute to say that the internal auditor by statute the board shall employ an internal auditor. The scope of the internal auditor shall not be restricted and shall include every function and program area of the school system. So historically, since we contracted with RSM, we have been disrespectful. We have not allowed them to have any flexibility or leeway in doing some of the tasks they needed to do. And I think they have felt consistently, and I did have this conversation with some of them, that their hands have been tied and that they were inhibited from doing their job in the comprehensive professional way that they were used to doing with other governmental agencies. So yes, we were fired, and it is on the board, and this board consistently has been disrespectful not only to that employee, to our board attorney, and to our other employees here at the district, and it's not a secret. So we need to get our act together at this point and take a look at ourselves and make sure that we adjust our behavior to act professionally and within the confines of the Constitution and the law of the state of Florida.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Gittens, and then Ms. Morgan.
And I agree with what my colleagues have said, and I spoke with them as well. And the leaders, Clara and I forget her name, but anyway, they have to look out for their employees just like we protect our employees from hurt, harm, and danger, and so they are looking out for their employees in that way. They work for quite a few districts in this state, and I think if we don't reevaluate ourselves, then it's going to be difficult for us to get someone else to replace them. And it is how can I say it? It's like a tone and a culture with this board that when certain people are hired, if it's not who some of us want, they are given a difficult time. And we have to, we hear all the time and say to each other, once a decision is made, we need to go along with it. We hired these people to work for us, and yet they were still nitpicked over and over again because, certain people decided they were not up to standard. So, and I know I'm skipping, but when we get to the board self-evaluation, it has to do with this. We need to do that before we look at hiring anybody to work with us, for us, whatever. We need to look at that evaluation, and we need to regroup. You cannot bring someone else in when we are not on the same page, when we're not healed. So as far as that self-evaluation and what we're going to do, the word is out there, and a lot of people know and see that RSM fired us. So who is going to be knocking down the door to want to come work here? Anyway, it's my thoughts.
Ms. Morgan.
So there's another problem, and it is the board way of work problem, and that is that we're totally unfocused and we lack clarity. So when we give instructions to our employees, we don't give one instruction. Each individual gives an instruction and then expects that employee to respond to us in our immediate personal needs. We don't speak as a board, and so people sit out here and they don't know what it is they're supposed to do, and then they come forward with what they think they're supposed to do, and the people whose needs aren't satisfied then are challenging. So I think having the audit committee as an intermediary between the employee and us will make a huge difference, because those are professional financial people. They will know how to communicate with an internal auditor, and perhaps communicate with us so that we have a better understanding of what it is actually that we should be doing with respect to this particular statute.
Thank you. And then Ms. Dupree Bruno, you pretty much have that though, because I know that they, it's ready for, are you going to be doing that, the audit committee?
So the audit committee policy has been submitted to the finance committee, advisory committee, and Mr. Williams was going to take a look at that with some of the other members and get back to us in terms of any changes and recommendations. Once that's received back, it will come back to the board.
But did we not have, I thought that you had said it should be coming soon.
So it should be coming soon because it was sent to him like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago since our last meeting.
Yes.
So I know he's looking at it, and I'm sure other members of the committee are looking at it, so they can send it back to us. Once I receive those changes, it will be presented to the board.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Giovanelli?
And just as an aside as well, the Booster Club manual was also sent to the committee. They've already responded with their feedback.
Thank you. Ms. Giovanelli?
So normally I would have agreed with Mrs. Morgan regarding that, but RSM is a professional group, and they do this for other counties, including Broward, where they found malfeasance, and Broward's board still didn't treat them the way this board was treated them. So I mean, I think we need to resolve that issue first, because otherwise we're going to have the same thing is going to happen again with whoever we hire. If they don't have the full authority to do their job per statute, we're going to have serious problems. So I think that we need to address the situation regarding how we got here in the first place. I know for a fact that RSM was unable to do their job thoroughly. They requested information they were not provided, and they met with quite a bit of resistance. And they didn't, my concern was that they never felt comfortable enough to come back and say, hey, we're not getting the information that we're requesting to allow us to do our job completely. And that's a serious situation. And yes, that's a fact. So I think we need to address those issues.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And that's the first that I've heard of that, because I know every time that I speak with them, they say that everybody is willing, because I always say, is there anything that you need? Do you have everything? And they always say, share with me that they're working with the departments, everybody's great. Their problem was we kept asking them to bring us stuff back, and every time they brought it back, they go through all the work to do it, then they bring it back to us, and then we send them away again. So that's why when the last time they came, it's like, can you give us a little bit of leeway so that way we can get stuff done? And we sent it back again, saying no.
Well, so they made a recommendation that regarding the schools and having a process in place. What did the board decide that day regarding their recommendation? What did y'all decide? Did y'all take their recommendation and make that decision to go forward with having a process in place? Because that's what they were recommending. Instead, I saw them getting crucified for making that recommendation. So I don't know where they're, they make a recommendation and then it dies there. It doesn't go any farther than what was said. This happens a lot, as Ms. Morgan stated. So there's, that no one stays focused. So.
No, I tend to agree with you too, because I know the minute I asked them to send that to me, they send it to me. I then, because I wanted something to send out to the board, when I sent it out to the board, within 30 minutes of me sending out to the board, it was all over Facebook. So that's not us being focused, it's us being, to me, I was sending that to share it with you all so that way we would know what was going on so we could come together and figure out, because this is a really important thing that we have to do. And so, yes, we will be having a meeting, an impromptu meeting to make sure that this happens.
Yes, I saw two other hands go up. Do you want to continue the conversation? Do you want to move forward?
Did you have
I'm going
something?
to ask that we please take consensus about this so that we can move on. We have 20 minutes left, and I've got to be out of here.
As far as consensus, this is something that will be coming, we have to bring this up.
Okay.
So this will be on a board agenda. And Ms. Vaughn?
And when we do the board agenda about what we're going to do next, I want to say that that agenda item includes a full, candid discussion of what happened, because I certainly have a few more things that I can say, going back and looking at history that goes way back to when they were first hired. I'll cite things and I'll give examples, but I want to make sure that that's how it's put on our list, that includes that full discussion about RSM.
Got it. Thank you.
And I just added cause of end of RSM relationship to that to that topic so that that doesn't get forgotten.
Thank you, Ms. McClung.
Thank you. So I've put that as a yes. The next
Madam
item.
Chair. Madam Chair, before you move forward, there was a question asked in terms of time period to be able to get the auditor in place. So the statute does not give a time period, but it does say that if it is a district with $500 million or more, they shall employ.
Right.
So I think time is of the essence.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is the board self-evaluation tool. I also wanted to remind you that the action plan for your self-evaluation areas is actually scheduled for tomorrow. So when Ms. Giddens was talking about we need to look at our self-evaluation, that will come about tomorrow. But I believe the self-evaluation tool was a separate item that Ms. Gittens had requested, looking at that evaluation itself and deciding if that is a tool that you wanted to continue using or if you wanted to look at a different tool beginning next year. Ms. Gittens.
Yes, I do recall that. And basically, I was saying that our evaluation and any of our employees' evaluations should all look the same, and they do not. And I think we need to bring everyone in line, that if we're going to use, that we would use the same format for ourselves as we do for our employees.
Yes, ma'am, and a little history. This evaluation, the board self-evaluation tool, came from FSBA, and I don't know what year, but I know it's been in use for several years. The other evaluations were developed, I believe, when Dr. McCullers was here, that he developed the superintendent evaluation, and the other ones were developed to align with that format. So we could certainly look at, if that's, the board wants to have that meeting, that discussion to talk about, would you like to change your evaluation to be more in alignment with those others?
Well, I think it would be a simple matter just to, bring up a vote and say, do we want to be in alignment with our employee assessments? And for ours to be the same or not. It's an easy yes or no.
Are you talking about format or are you talking about content?
Well, the format, and then I guess we would have to, plug in the pieces and make sure that we have all of that. So, and who would that, I'm looking at you, Trevor. I'm thinking, you're going to raise your hand in a minute. I'm glad we're far away from each other. But would that be something that would be on your plate to do?
Possibly.
Okay.
And no, that's fine. So what I'm hearing is, first thing we need to do is come to consensus, but I wanted to clarify, you're not talking just format, you're also talking about looking at the items and debating which ones would stay the same and whether some others might change. Is that correct?
If we can just, how do we mesh them together?
Okay.
To have the same look and style for all of our evaluations.
So could we have a consensus for that? Is that what you want?
Please, yes.
Oh, and now we can all see, so Ms. Morgan?
Oh, I'm fine. I'll live with that item. See how
Okay,
this
so I'm going to put a
priority,
yes
but-
for that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. The next item is job descriptions, specifically the job description of the superintendent and the board secretaries, which would also blend in that renaming of that executive secretary position.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion, or would you like to go straight to consensus? Ms. Patrica?
I think the superintendent job description should be part of a larger discussion about our values and our mission statement, our vision, our strategic plan as we go about hiring a permanent superintendent. So I think that should be part and parcel of that discussion. I don't have a problem with the secretary review, but doing the superintendent should be part of what we do as a board to keep the guardrails in place as we go about hiring a permanent superintendent.
Ms. Gittens?
And I believe we had discussed a while back that when we do finally hire a firm to help us with the permanent superintendent selection, that would be a part of their purview to help us to hone that. I mean, to me, that would be their job, to help us get the documentation and everything in line as to what we should do, and they can facilitate that discussion, which is why we need to get them on ASAP. So
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Yes, so then at that point, I was going to ask how that was going, and maybe when we have that firm hired, they could also help us with a board auditor, because I think, as Ms. Dupuy-Bruno said, time is of the essence. We have to have that auditor.
I'm sorry, you're wanting the search firm to
Yes.
help with the auditor?
Yes.
It would be probably be more
okay.
efficient
Yeah, true.
for one firm to handle both.
I think they do two different things, though.
Before we go into that discussion, if we could get consensus on this item, and then I think, because I think that would take a whole nother vote or a consensus.
So I'm not sure why we would need a separate workshop for this if we're going to do the superintendent description as part of the superintendent hire process. And then I believe that Dr. Pruitt already indicated that she would bring forward changes to board secretary job descriptions. I'm not sure we need a separate workshop for this.
Ms. Gittens?
Well, don't we need to give input in that? So that's why it should be in workshop.
Well, but the board secretaries don't work for us, so we don't give input into their job description, and then we get all the input we need with the search firm.
We give input into all job descriptions as far as I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Morgan, did you have?
No.
No?
So what I would like to do is to split this into two separate. It sounds like there is agreement that the superintendent job description would be part of the full search. So let's start with that. Is there agreement that the job description of the superintendent would not be a separate workshop? It would be part of the search firm's work?
Say that one more time, please.
So the job description of the superintendent would be finalized as part of the search firm's work.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Is there consensus with that?
Ms. Schiavinelli?
Okay, Ms. Vaughn, would you like to discuss why that's not okay with you?
Isn't that our job? I view superintendent's job description as our job as a board, and we need to have that in place before the search firm goes out to search. Search firms, as far as I know, they don't, I mean, that's not their job as a search firm, to me, anyway.
Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, actually, it is part of their job, because one of the things they'll do focus groups with all different segments of the community. They will get information about what our priorities are, what our mission and vision should be, and that will tell us a lot about the skill set, the experiences, the training is needed for the person that we want to hire. And at that point, we may very well make up the job description, but we need the information that the search firm is going to give us that will come from the entire community as part of the search process.
Ms. Gittens?
And I would like to ask if we could even look into the search firm also assisting us with finding the auditor as well. I mean, they're a search firm. They look for people to fill jobs. So I know it's within their purview to do that. And if it's going to help us to get this done quicker and we not be limping along and doing this and that and the other, it's their job. They look for people to fill positions. And as far as and I know their main priority would be the superintendent, but while we have their services, maybe in the contractual whatever, asking them, how would it be to just add this particular position?
If we could just hold that conversation until we've come to consensus on these two items, because that is a separate decision. So first, could we, Ms. Vaughn, are you comfortable? I know we're not really doing a vote, but I hate seeing thumbs down.
I'm keeping my thumbs down.
Okay, is everyone else okay with going forward with that? Okay, so we'll say that the job description will be firmed up as part of the search firm's work. Of course, the board would be responsible for that final version, but that they would assist with that. So I'm over here, I'm just going to put search firm so that we remember that conversation. And then we'll go back to the job descriptions around the board secretaries. There has been a request to bring that forward as a workshop to provide input, and then there's been other comment that Dr. Pruitt will bring forward the changes that have been discussed already. So what is your pleasure? If there's no more discussion, we can go straight to consensus, but if there are other
I just think that we need to be careful that we are starting to make job descriptions for everybody and changing. I agree. I think that they should have the administrative because that's exactly what they do for us. And if they can do that without having a bunch of other, a whole workshop over it, I'm good with that.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn.
I seem to recall that around the time that Mary and Susan were no longer in our office and Ms. Thomas came in and then we hired Ms. Roman, wasn't there a discussion that the superintendent was realigning several of the positions in the governance area? So, or somewhere, there was some kind of realignment, rather.
Yes.
Am I remembering wrong on that?
And I think that Ms. Stillwell probably knows that better than us, but they were looking at doing, instead of having, and if I'm mistaken, tell me, it's okay, I'm not gonna hurt my feelings, but I believe the conversation was that at this particular time, we were not hiring a manager, and then we were, that eventually, if need be, that we would, that they, not we, they would hire a manager that would oversee all of them.
Right.
Inside our doors and outside our doors for the whole entire, so that way everybody, that one individual was making sure that everybody was working kind of together, cross-training, so that everybody could.
Right. Okay, so that's kind of what I remember.
What was said.
So obviously, the board secretaries are not our employees, they're the superintendent's employees. However, we know best the kinds of things that we need from our administrative assistant. And so I would say, yes, that should be a job description that's looked at, but it needs to be looked at in that whole possible reorganization that we would have, again, even though they're not our employees, we should have some very specific input into that because it does impact us. We rely on these individuals so much that I think we really do need some special input on how that all's going to happen, if it happens.
Thank you.
Ms. Giovanelli?
So I think
And then Ms. Fisher.
this conversation is a little premature until we get an interim superintendent.
Yeah.
So that's my first thought. Second, I think that we can wait for HR to kind of reevaluate and look at the job descriptions and bring those to us, and we can view them. If we want to make changes or recommendations, I think that, we can do that just after reviewing it. And then once we have an interim, then bring it back to the table and have this discussion. If we even, at that point in time, once the interim superintendent decides how he wants to reorg or whatever his departments, then we can put it on our agenda. But I think we're being a little premature, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. Giovanelli. And Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, it is the responsibility of human resources to make sure that the job descriptions are up to date and current. And so I think that would be the most efficient way to do it, to allow them to present that to us and we can review it. And I would hope it would include input from the people who have those jobs.
One more thing I forgot.
Ms. Giovanelli?
When I first came on board, the evaluation, I actually did the secretary's evaluations. Now we don't do that. That's done by the superintendent. And that would be the conversation, when it comes back around from that. Do we want to take on that responsibility, or do we want to keep it where it's presently at now, back in the superintendent's office? So, but that would go along with the interim superintendent and the reorg and whatever they do, and how they want to handle their, staff. So.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to ask for consensus that we not have a workshop on this topic, that we wait until HR brings forward the revised job description and then reconsider at that point. We have consensus on that. Okay, thank you. Next item was LGBTQ training from another perspective. Ms. Patrica, could I ask you to elaborate on that?
Sure. So it's my understanding that staff has received extensive training through PFLAG and Equality Florida on this issue, and that was the training that was brought to the board when we were in Caloosahatchee, right? And we drew pictures and all that. Remember that training we did? In the morning it was Future Makers, and then in the afternoon it was training that was brought to us as a board based on training that staff has received on issues surrounding LGBTQ. And I believe that's one-sided training. I watched a news magazine thing several weeks ago. I want to say it was before our last board meeting, where their evidence was brought forward, and I don't believe everything I see in the media, but evidence was brought forward about potential harm in introducing these topics to children at ages that are inappropriate. And so I'd like to see the other side of this. The thing that kept running through my head through the entire news magazine presentation was every step of the way, parental involvement was necessary, parental permission was required for all of the medical and mental health training associated with transgender students or transgender children in particular. So I feel like we've only received one side of the story, and I'd like to hear it from the other perspective.
Ms. Vaughn?
I feel like the training that we received was objective. I've received training outside of this through my role as a guardian ad litem, very similar training with similar conclusions. I think some of the catchwords I'm hearing from Ms. Patrica are politically motivated, and they are also from one particular constituent who has been and is politically motivated and has been pushing the issue and has asked the board to hear a training from a very biased group. And I personally say, no, there's one perspective and it's objective, not political.
Thank you. Other comments?
Did you have something to say?
Well, to me, in all of the information and emails and calls that I'm getting, I think there is a misconception that, first of all, that we're teaching children things that we shouldn't be teaching them. And I believe in the presentation that we received, we were told that parents can opt out, and it's not a class until middle school, I believe it is, and you can opt out by signing and saying that your child does not have to participate. So I just think we need to help people understand we are not shoving things down students' throats. If the curriculum in middle school, you can still sign out of it, and we are not teaching concepts and things to students. And that's a misconception that's very dangerous for the community to think that's what we're doing when, and you guys can, I mean, I'm not asking you to come up, but I'm saying, that's what I heard you say, that was the case. And we've got to, I know we don't always agree, but I think there are some things that are points of this is what we do that we have to agree on, whether we are, and make the statements clearly this is what we do, this is what we do not do as a united front. Whether we accept it or agree with it, this is what we do, and this is what we don't do. So I just hope that we're all making sure we give a clear, concise picture to the community that we are not indoctrinating children, and that parents do have the right to opt out. And many of the things that I hear that are just not happening. And it's just very frightening to me that people have this conception, we're doing this and this and this, and we're not. Unless I'm mistaken somewhere, but that's what I heard, so.
Thank you. Any other comments on the request?
Or any other comments? Anything else?
Okay, I'll ask for consensus on having another LGBTQ training from other perspective.
And who would provide, can I ask who would provide that?
I don't have a specific, I do have to say I resent the implication that this is political. I'm a parent, I have 4 kids in our schools. I'd like to understand this issue from all sides, not just from one side as it has been presented to me. So I really do resent the implication that this is political. I've specifically avoided any political discussion surrounding this issue. For me, it's about protecting all kids and making sure parents' rights are protected in the process, period. Those are the only 2 things I care about. And I don't feel like I have a full understanding of the issue as it would impact kids at all stages of development. That's it. That's all I want to know. But I've got to go. I'm a yes. I can't stay past 5 o'clock today. Thank you.
Ms. Morgan? Consensus, I'm sorry. I was just asking for your consensus.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
And the question is whether we will do
is
additional training
another
from a
training
different perspective.
Yes, LGBTQ training from another perspective.
I can live with it.
Okay, so that is. Okay, thank you. Okay, those are all of the topics around the workshop. There was the additional topic that has been brought up, which is not a workshop topic, but I just wanted to remind you that you had requested to have a conversation on whether to include the internal auditor position in the search firm request.
I thought we already voted for that. Ms. Morgan?
I have no problem with doing a search, but it's got to be a separate contract. In part because the people doing a superintendent search are not necessarily, if you're using one firm, not necessarily the people who will be doing the audit. So I think I have no problem with doing a contract, and it may end up being the same firm, but I don't want to muddy the responsibilities of the superintendent search with interim audit.
So could you rephrase that as, well, and I agree that it should be 2 different contracts because one is specifically for one and the other is for the other, if in fact it can do that. So it would be definitely 2, I think. Do you all agree with that?
It could be the same.
It could be the same, but it would be
Search
different.
firms search for all
Right, but it
kinds of
could be
positions.
different contracts.
Yep.
With different contracts for that.
That's fine.
So the possibility to have the same firm do it, the audit search as well as the other search, 2 different contracts.
And can I say one thing to that?
Yes, please.
That the benefit of having one firm to do that, at that point, working with us to look for the superintendent, they know who we are. They know what our needs are. They know what, somebody's laughing, but they do understand and will have worked with us. So understanding our needs, and why start all over again?
Okay, so.
And don't have that timeline in front of me, so I don't know if it would require another ad, whether the ad that is currently out there could be adjusted to include both positions, or if you would need to put out another advertisement. I'm not aware of that timeline.
Just have conversation with them.
With the finals. Yeah.
Ms. Giovanelli has her hand up.
So that's providing that these search firms hasn't watched us and doesn't want to work for us.
Just say it. they could be firing us too. I don't know.
We may be down to one.
With that being said, I'm trying to make light of it, but
Hey.
at what point do we bring in maybe a committee to help with this process? We're going to have a committee, a hiring committee anyways that would, I mean, at what point do we maybe bring them in to start, facilitating some of this? I don't, I'm just asking.
To facilitate what?
The process, but that's a part of what the company does.
Okay, well then I'll wait on that.
They do all of that, and they
Oh,
set
yeah, the
that
search
up.
firm?
Yes.
But we don't need a committee to start this, that's
We
all
don't
I'm
have to
asking.
think.
Get the committee together and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't,
So with that being said, may I, Madam Chair, where are we with the people who have applied?
well, we have the 4 now, the other one and we put that in the paper, so we still have till, I think we still have a couple more days for them to send them all in to us. But no one has sent them in except for the one that Ms. Gittens had shared with us that she had received from Dr. Pruitt. And we contacted them and asked them to submit something, and they did. And so this far, we still have the same ones that we had originally, plus the other one. So as soon as that deadline is over, then we will bring them, they will all be coming back here again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. McClung?
Thank you. That's all we have for today. I would just, I did remind you that tomorrow is the discussion around the action plan for the self-evaluation areas. So I would ask if you have any ideas around that to bring those ideas with you tomorrow. It would help our conversation go a little more smoothly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we are at good of the order. Ms. Fisher, do you have anything for the good of the order?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Ms. Giovanelli?
No, me neither.
Ms. Gittens?
It's been a long day, no
Yeah.
thank you.
Ms. Vaughn?
I had something, but I didn't write it down, so I'm not sure. It just came to me, and now all of this other stuff is running in my head, so I'll come up with it by tomorrow.
Good. Morgan?
Someone turn off Ms.
Dupree Bruno.
Giovanelli's mic.
Do you have anything to share?
The only thing is there's a good cause item that will be coming under attorney recommendation for a settlement. I just want the board to know that.
Thank you so much. Okay, seeing no other business to come before us, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much, and we